Hello, people of the internet. I am Andres Perez, aka KaijuNoir, here with a review for the latest Godzilla movie that has been released recently in the United States. That is 2023's Godzilla -1. Joining me from the Shin Kamen Rider review, it is the one and only 8armedspidey, aka Frank Gillen.
Hey, buddy. Hey, everybody. Bringing that comedy for your momedy. It's me.
And here with me is someone we have not seen on the channel for a long time, but for those old school fans who knew me from back in the SOS days, you know him, you love him, you might even hate him. It's the salacious Salvadorian himself, the one and only David Joshua Hernandez, aka Gorizard.
I'm back.
How have you been, David? It's been forever.
When's the last time we did a review? It was for Godzilla vs. Kong, wasn't it?
Yes. The last time you were on the channel was for GVK. We did a review for, well, not a review. We did a video discussing the trailer, and then we did a follow-up video discussing the actual film itself. And that was well over 2 years ago at this point.
Jeez.
And now we're back, baby. Backstreet's back. All right.
This is how we do it.
It's worlds colliding here, just bringing two of my peeps from two different circles here to discuss.
The Latino Hispanic God Hand is here.
Yes, indeed. So, getting right into things, pulling a Philip DeFranco here. Let's just jump right into it.
Don't. Oh, come on.
So, Godzilla -1. This was a project that was sort of teased at, I want to say like a year, like well over a year ago, where it was announced that the director, if I can pull up his name here, Takashi Yamazaki, who was known for a variety of films. He's
been working slowly on the pilot for Godzilla -1 since 2008.
Yeah, because what was it? The first movie, roughly first Godzilla related project he did was Always Sunset on 3rd Street 2, and that featured a dream sequence involving Godzilla.
And that was a stretch because I saw the film a long time ago. I think the context for it is the guy's like a story writer or something.
I believe so.
And some kid's like, that's a lot like Godzilla. And the guy's like, no. And then he has a dream where that happens. And I'm like, that's insane. That's like if you're watching a romantic comedy, the guy's like, man, I wish I was like Spider-Man. And then he has a dream where a full fucking Spider-Man scene happens. It's like, that's a lot for just a joke. Right. I love and respect the shit out of that.
And then later on, he also was heavily involved in the 2021 theme park attraction Godzilla the Ride Giant Monsters Ultimate Battle, which was basically the
revenge.
Yes. Resurrection.
Revengeance.
The final chapter.
The squeakquel.
It was a 3D simulator ride akin to like Star Tours or Back to the Future the ride. And that featured a design of Godzilla that would look very familiar to what we have here with Godzilla -1. And in between, he's done a whole bunch of various different movies. The only one I'm vaguely familiar with is Space Battleship Yamato. Just out of curiosity, have either of you ever seen any of Yamazaki's films in the past?
Only 3rd Street. That's the only one I saw that, but I saw that when that came out.
Mm-hmm. And for you, David?
I seen Returner, which is kind of ironic because I feel like I should have seen that movie a long time ago.
I feel the same way. That movie looks cool as shit.
Yeah, because Sony put out a DVD for it around the same time that the
Final Wars
Millennium Godzilla movies came out in the US.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that movie has transferring planes.
Yeah, and a trailer was attached to, I remember, Megaguirus and GMK's US DVDs.
Yep.
Cool. Let's see. And so we jump here to the present. Like a while back ago, before -1 was even announced, there were rumors that there was casting calls for a Toho giant monster period piece movie involving Yamazaki. And it was pretty much all but confirmed that this was going to be the next Godzilla movie. And wouldn't you know it, I think it was exactly a year ago on November 3rd for Godzilla Day, they announced that, this is going to be a new Godzilla movie. There was a big over-the-top countdown, counting down from
cool. That was
that
really cool.
It was counting down from, I think, from 32 all the way to 0, and then count down even further to -1. Got trailer.
Which is genius.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There were leaks. Potential like pseudo, what was it, Reddit or 4chan leaks about a Godzilla 0, but as we all know, those leaks were complete and utter bullshit.
Yeah, most of them so far, most of them have not really come to light. I think they were right about like one thing, but then after that, they really weren't.
Mm-hmm. So, who knows if that was like an earlier draft or it was just complete nonsense. Doesn't matter.
It sounds like nonsense. I don't really believe that.
Yeah. Did you see any of the supposed leaks, David, before this movie came out?
No, but on a semi-related note, I did see the leaks for Godzilla X Kong, and turns out they were legitimate.
I have heard about those same leaks as well. Oh boy. We're not talking about GXK. We're talking about -1. So,
which ironically, the trailer might drop today.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Might. I'm not sure, but
who knows? Maybe if this video does well, we might do a video analyze. We'll make a 3-hour chat like the good old World War G days and overanalyzing a trailer.
We could do a reaction thing where we all show our dumb little faces and react to it and go, "Oh my god!
Oh my god!"
Movie.
I'll start crying like, "Oh my god, this is the greatest thing!"
Guys, it's like when we saw the reaction to the Little Mermaid.
Oh,
we're not gonna get it. We're not gonna get into that.
No, that's another story for another time that'll never come to pass.
Yeah, that's an off the mic conversation. Anyways, folks,
I need to know this later.
Yeah, remind us after the show.
Anyways, we've seen the movie.
Patreon to get it.
We've seen the movie. I guess I would. The first thing I want to ask you guys is, given how rare it is for a Japanese Godzilla movie to premiere in American theaters, what was your theater experience like when you saw the film?
I was a bit semi out of it because it came out on Wednesday, and I came out of work a few hours earlier, so I had to get some coffee so I don't fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why, but every time I see a monster movie in a movie theater, I get what's the term? I get hydrated.
Okay, that's certainly
why,
a thing.
But it's like
explain yourself.
I guess it's like
explain yourself. What?
What's gonna happen? But that was my first time watching.
Were you just like overly sweaty when you see a Godzilla movie?
Like you become porous.
Because I'm really worried that it's gonna be bad.
Okay, that's fair. I'm starting to know what you mean, but your choice of verbiage is kind of confusing.
Get used to that, Frank.
Good. We'll get along just fine. Anyways, continue.
But on my second viewing, it was better. But on my 2 viewings, I did see it on 2 premium large formats on IMAX. And have any of you guys ever heard of MPX?
Yes. I think it's RPX, ain't it?
MPX for Maya Cinemas. Andres, you should know that you Mexicans own that theater.
What?
Well, they have RPX by us, but I think it's because it's Regal Cinemas out by us, maybe.
No. Maya Cinemas. I guess it's their own version of IMAX. MPX. It's their large premium format.
I'm looking up MPX and I'm seeing firearms.
I'm looking at guns as well, but I put MPX Cinema and now I'm looking at these like fancy, like almost like amusement park looking seats.
Okay.
They got trays.
When I tried tagging MPX.
Yeah, RPX is whack. I don't recommend it for anybody.
So
no, not RPX. The one where it's like 3 screens in front of you.
Oh, okay, like some weird like CinemaScope stuff.
No, that might be RPX. Yeah, where it's like projected on the walls. It's real crazy.
Okay. Oh, so you said this is from the Maya Cinemas theater chain.
Yeah, Maya Cinemas MPX because Cinemark has XD, which is their version of IMAX. Regal sometimes employs IMAX. That's actually where I saw it, at a Regal theater.
Mm-hmm.
XD is bar.
I've only ever been to like AMC theaters.
AMC does employ IMAX too, and Dolby Vision, which is also their version of IMAX, I guess.
Yeah, okay. And then sometimes what is it? Yeah. That's I think that's where RPX comes from. It might.
And how was the audience that you went to see the movie with?
It was a sizable audience on the first night.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, there wasn't much people, but I went pretty early. I went to a 1:40 p.m. screening.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in the I'm not gonna lie, it was in the hood where this theater was at. So
whoa, dude, hood folk watching guys are like, oh damn.
It was the only theater in my location where they were showing it in a premium large format. And
Detroit?
I didn't want to see it on a smaller screen.
Fucking RoboCop comes in to clear the mess.
Fucking Blade.
And then, how was your experience watching the movie, Frank?
Okay, so I was very hesitant at first because I think I've told you to do this before, but this is going to be a slight bit of a story. So when Shin Godzilla had come out, I had a very poor theater reception for it. Not because I didn't like the movies, because I don't think the audience that saw it, one, were knowing what kind of movie this was, and two, were ready to see a subtitled film.
Oh.
I'm not sure if you've experienced that. So unfortunately, like normally I would say it's funny, but like there was a lot of people being very disrespectful and inappropriate hearing Japanese for the first time.
Uh-huh.
Examples.
Like, okay, we might have to bleep this up, but a lot of people were doing this. Again, this is, and I quote, a lot of people, when they would hear them talk, was like, they'd be like, oh, ha, 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 ching chong. And I'm like, really?
Oh.
Like literally a guy next to me said that, and I almost knocked him the fuck out. Like,
for a minute there, I was expecting something like old school samurai noises, like, oh, but no, that's even worse.
Yeah, no, like, but yeah, no, some people were literally going like that. Just because like they didn't understand, so that already soured my taste for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I saw Shin Kamen Rider, I had to deal with Kamen Rider fans in a theater. So the unwashed, unfettered, somebody was on his cell phone who I leaned over and said, "If you don't turn your cell phone on, I'm gonna fucking throw it.
I'm gonna fucking Rider kick your face off."
Like people, like again, it was like a Regal special event, so people were like treating it like it's a hangout. I'm like, no, I paid money to see this movie, so. That's all to say. Going into -1, I was very scared. I even remember telling you that. I was like, I can't wait to see this movie. I'm not looking forward to seeing it with Godzilla fans.
Mm-hmm.
But I was very pleasantly surprised, in fact. People were very respectful. There was a few moments where I think people like chuckled and laughed, but like not where I think it was appropriate, but not like in a rude way.
Mm-hmm.
Just scenes that weren't funny that people were kind of laughing at. But other than that, like people were quiet. No one was on their phone. Like it was, the viewing experience was very nice. I saw the 8:30 screening, so that may have been also better because there was like the older crowd there.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very fortunate to see it at my Regal Cinema here in upstate New York. So it was a very good experience. Again, I applause to you, Regal Cinema audience I saw it with. Thank you for not being racist bags of shit. Is what I'm trying to say.
Did you also see Shin Godzilla in New York, upstate New York?
Yeah, upstate New York. So that's what I'm saying. When I saw it in upstate New York with a bunch of people who were because I think the preconceived notion when they first saw Shin Godzilla, that because again, no one really knew what it was about, at least casual moviegoers.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people, including there was a handful of children in my audience when I saw Shin Godzilla, expecting like this big Godzilla adventure, not this like socio-political like horror movie. So a lot of people's expectations were that this is going to be a fun, laugh out loud, cheesy gag. You know, we're going to go see, not like a movie to be seen as a movie.
Right. To quote Red Letter Media, this is one of those moments where it's like, oh, you misunderstood.
Yeah, no, really, it really, not to say that you can't like take the piss out of these movies, but like, you're seeing a movie, like show a little bit of respect, you know?
Right. There's a time and place for everything, and a movie theater with like tons of other people that's just not the environment for that.
Yeah, so that's why again I was glad that a lot of people at -1 were very ready to see a movie. Sure, It was a Godzilla movie, but they were ready to see a film. You know?
Right.
So yeah. Bottom line, good viewing experience. I'm gonna probably see it again with my dad because he wants to see it with me. So I will probably see it a second time, probably during the week.
Cool. As for me, I saw the movie last night, went up to Los Angeles to meet up with a couple of friends of mine, and we all hung out there in LA. We went to I think what was it called? The Americana at Brand in Glendale. Really nice, like outdoor shopping mall type of area. The theater itself is very beautiful, very exquisite, you could say. We saw it at like, what was it, like 7:15 showing. It was a pretty small theater, not that many rows, but the audience there, very quiet, very respectful, like you mentioned. There was one person I remembered who kind of like got overly excited at the very beginning of the movie. It's like, oh my god, whoa, kind of annoying, but thankfully
was it Sean?
Yeah, was it?
No, it was some other dude who was like off on in our row, I think. But thankfully, he quieted down as the movie went on. There were parts of the movie that were definitely meant to be comedic, but people were sort of like, I don't know. There is comedy in the movie, but not.
Yeah,
like,
there's definitely scenes that are kind of cute, but like there's
they're
parts
not.
where like
they're not really like.
To be like.
They're not really
laugh out loud.
they're not really gut busting funny, but like there are certain moments where like everyone was like laughing, but it's like a little too much weirdly for it's like this is the thing that's like worth a. I guess it's like anything with the character Doc, or anything with like the boat crew, kid.
Also, we might get into it, but like. The climax, which we'll get into later, had some people laughed at parts of the climax. I'm like, there's nothing funny happening here.
Yeah. But anyways, aside from people laughing a bit too hard at jokes that are not really meant to be laugh out loud jokes, it was a real overall solid experience, and highly enjoyed the whole like the film and the theater experience as a whole. So going into like the actual movie itself, I'm curious to know what were your guys' expectations going into the movie. David, you can start.
Andres, before we get into that, you couldn't see it at Grauman's Chinese Theater?
Why are you so handsome? What? Sorry, what?
What? So
they had IMAX screenings for Godzilla at Grauman's Chinese Theater.
That's where Davis saw it.
Funny you should say that. Yeah. So like our buddy Davis flew in from Texas to LA for a couple of days, and like he and Sean went to the Chinese theater to see the movie without me. I gave Sean so much shit for this, but I was mostly joking. I was like, hey, why you went to see the movie without me first? I thought this was what Friday was for. Side note, I had no clue that the preview screenings were happening on Wednesday, just because I'm just so used to movies.
Yeah, that's how I saw it.
Yeah. Like I didn't know that was a thing, because like all the marketing is for December 1st.
December 1st, yeah.
And there's been like little to no marketing. It doesn't help that there's been little to no marketing in America, in the US, for -1. So I had no clue. I saw all these people saying, I'm going to see it on Wednesday. I'm going to see it too.
The pre-screening didn't get a lot of marketing, but everything else about it did.
Yeah, so apparently there was a Beyonce concert movie that was coming out this same weekend, and so...
Yeah, when she showed up in the movie, I was fucking floored.
So when her movie's preview screenings were on Thursday, so because they were taking up all these like IMAX screens for that concert film, Toho decided to instead have these movies on Wednesday instead for the fans. I think that's what you explained to me, right, David?
Yeah, from what I understand is that somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I read this from a Hollywood Reporter article. IMAX doesn't directly negotiate with studios. It's mostly built on favors or something like that.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense, maybe?
Yeah, so I guess Toho's best bet was to, put it on Wednesday, a couple days before December 1st, because not only is -1 released nationwide in the US that same day, but so is that freaking Beyonce concert movie. And those are taking up IMAX screens all across the country.
Okay, then. So, The movie ended up getting pseudo-released on Wednesday, and so I was just getting ready for Friday, so I ended up seeing it Friday, but Sean and Davis did see the movie at the Chinese theater, at the Chinese theater, in that IMAX screening, and I hope they enjoyed it. No, I'm not bitter about it.
Holding hands, no less.
Andres, you should give them as much shit, because I was considering driving all the way up to California just to see it in that theater, but then I thought,
I was considering not going because fuck you guys.
You know what we should do, Dave?
The thing I will admit, though, I was invited, though, so I shouldn't talk shit.
We should all meet up in LA to see the next Godzilla movie in a Chinese theater and just not invite those fuckers at all.
Y'all should come down to upstate New York where there's nothing to do.
Hey, you know what? Kaiju Brooklyn is happening next year. Let's think about that.
Oh shit, we should think about that. I would, if All Monster Attack didn't kind of stink ass, like I'd go to that again.
Yeah, you know what? Well, side tangent. I think pretty much All Monsters Attack is pretty much dead at this point.
Yeah.
Anyways,
RIP, pour one out for Continue.
What? Okay. So, -1. I guess my how do you say? The first question to ask you guys is, what are your
that makes it a +1.
what are your overall thoughts on the film, and did you like it, David?
Why is he going to go first?
On my first viewing,
He's got tenure.
I liked it.
Ugh.
Huh?
No, continue.
Shut up.
Yeah, on my first viewing, I liked it, but I still had mixed feelings. That's why I felt like a second viewing was warranted.
Mhm.
Now I love it, not now knowing what to expect. I remember Steve Rifle likened it to Godzilla's Revenge.
What?
Yeah, because he was like juxtaposing the trauma that Ichiro faces.
Is he
But
feeling okay?
Huh?
Is he feeling okay? Like,
I'm not sure, but I compare this movie more. I compare the movie more to GMK and Godzilla Raids Again.
I'm definitely more in the Raids Again camp. GMK, I think that's the benchmark for everybody now, which I completely disagree with, but continue. We're in a fight.
How dare you?
Go on. Continue.
Oh wait, I was done.
Okay.
Oh shit.
Okay. So what's your rebuttal, Frank?
Well, let me push up my enormous set of glasses here. Godzilla -1. No, I'm not going to talk about that. No, Godzilla -1 for me. It was very much I think I was even talking about this all the way back when we went to All Monsters Attack. That this is kind of the Godzilla movie I've wanted for a long time. It is a period piece of the kind of a retelling of the original story with the technology, the technical skills cinematography wise that would allow for a lot of scenes that were always implied in the original Godzilla film that we now have, hence, throwing trains around, tails sweeping through buildings, city blocks. A lot of it was there, a little oddly done in a few parts, but not to the point where I'd hate it. But it really came for me like a point of like, this is a old style film. Again, we don't really, most times, at least to my knowledge, with a lot of Japanese cinema, from what I've seen, most period pieces is like the samurai Edo period. It's never like, it's never around, post-war Japan, especially when you're making a monster movie, as far as I've seen. So a lot of it really comes from just that era. So again, it really had a very Showa era vibe to it, which I really dug with some modern sensibilities. So it really hit that itch that I really wanted, achieved, and I think it really nailed it for me.
Cool.
There, you happy?
Yes, I am. Thank you. I appreciate your friendship.
Good, fucker.
As for me, I was very excited going. What is that?
I said before you throw in your 2 cents, you're gonna have to pull up your panties, Andres.
Okay.
Anyways,
10 minutes.
What?
Yeah, back in the classic SOS days.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Anyways. So I was very excited going into this movie. I was very intrigued by the period piece aspect of it, which I don't think we ever really had with the Godzilla franchise before. I'm sure there's probably like comics and other stuff like that where it's like, oh, it's now in the past. But I don't think we've ever had that in cinema form. And so I was really curious to know what was going to happen. It looked like pretty much like a straight up remake of the original 54 Godzilla. And I knew going into it that he stated in an interview that his biggest inspirations were the original 54 film, GMK, and Shin Godzilla. And I could definitely see all 3 films' influences on this movie. Overall, I highly enjoyed this experience. To pretty much like quickly wrap up my thoughts, for me, this was easily the most heart-pounding, most emotional experience I have felt with a Godzilla film in a long time. There are parts of the movie that I feel like could have been done better, and I do feel like there are certain points where things felt a little bit too derivative of what we've got recently, but I'll definitely get into that as this review goes on. But overall, I thought this was a very solid, very strong film, and I feel like this is a movie that I think people can really get into.
Definitely.
Andres, that's some bootylicious ringtone you got there.
Oh no, that was me. Sorry, I forgot that I had Instagram open.
Okay, good. That sounded out of character for Andres.
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't mean to sabotage you.
No, don't worry. We'll consider that not canon in the KaijuNoir lore. So first things to talk about. What were your thoughts on the overall story? Let's have Frank go first.
So the overall story, from beginning to end, I really dug the idea of a pilot who basically shirks his duties as a kamikaze pilot and is basically seeking refuge. Like, he basically is trying to find an out and hoping people will buy his excuse of him just abandoning his post, which is, again, a whole heavy thing onto its own. That's a whole discussion for another time. But the idea of that, but then it tying into, there's an outpost on Odo Island, a place we all know very well. And just the kind of the slow build. I forgot who said it once, but it really played into the mythos of Godzilla that I love the most, of him being a personification of death and its looming threat, like the nuclear bomb, where if it doesn't get you at first, it will come to get you eventually. So throughout the movie, it's very much his actions, basically, like each one kind of builds up, like throughout for him, like each thing he goes through where things start going well. But there's still that looming threat of, like, soon this thing that you've, like, basically put by the wayside is going to come back to haunt you. So I kind of like that the whole movie throughout the film, even with its music, has this menace, like a ghost story of this thing, of, like, something slowly creeping up on us, even as an audience. So I really like the pacing in that regard. The action set pieces were immaculate. Like, again, seeing him just kind of a smaller Godzilla for once walk through Tokyo, doing destruction that I've wanted to see forever. Like I said before, train cars being tossed, buildings being swept out. I feel like it just captured what, like, a true beast Godzilla can be. Because sure, people praise Shin Godzilla, but where was his personality at all? This Godzilla had that, and that's really what I like in my Godzillas. I like when Godzilla has it seems to have intelligence. And then at the end, everyone banding together to defeat him. Again, it was very throwback to the Showa era of, we got to destroy him, but how? And then coming up with a crazy scheme to kind of take him out. So I really liked it. Again, it really was very much a modern Showa era film from the golden age of the Showa era. So I think overall that just really sold it for me.
Cool. And I guess I should mention that, like, for this review, I feel like it's very appropriate to go into spoilers just because there's very little that the trailers revealed of the movie other than, like, the broad strokes of it's the 40s, Godzilla shows up, a lot of rampaging, a lot of tragedy. That's pretty much like...
The fact that we start in the 40s is also a point of note that I thought was really interesting. I actually wish we'd spent more time there.
That is true, yeah. Like, that's probably one of my critiques of the film itself. I feel like it doesn't take enough advantage of the time period outside the fact that the main characters are former soldiers. The main character, what is his name? I feel so bad right now.
It is
Shikishima.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so Shikishima. I love the fact that this movie deals with him and his, like, PTSD, his, like, trauma that he experienced from the war, from encountering Godzilla early on. He feels like a lot of responsibility. He feels responsible for the deaths of his mechanic crew on Odo Island. He feels responsible for the loss of for Japan's loss in World War II, for not playing his part in all of it. Though he's got very relatable, understandable reasons why he did not want to do that. And he carries this enormous amount of trauma and guilt throughout the whole movie. And it's through the people that he interacts with, through the people that come into his life, that he ends up finding a new reason to keep going, a new reason to live, like a new motivation in life. And I absolutely loved all of that.
Which is a good through line for a Godzilla movie. Not often is it that, like, more often than not, there's a human element, but you don't feel for their true journey. It's just something they're going through as a result of Godzilla. this is something he was going through regardless if Godzilla showed up or not, I feel like.
Yeah. I guess like the closest comparison I could make is like the main protagonist from Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, where she's another somewhat like disgraced.
That's probably the other closest character. Like again, that's why I kin it more to like that than GMK in terms of the characterization, because GMK, for as much people praise it, those characters are shitty.
I respectfully disagree, good sir.
Really? Are you sure? You fucking like you're literally talking about the fucking what is it, like paranormal investigators on a YouTube channel? That's the main characters.
I like those paranormal investigators. Damn it!
So don't you look at me and say those characters are nuanced.
I won't, but instead I will say that
bargain basement of the internet. That's their names.
I will say that in comparison to Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, I feel like the writing in like the Kiryu movies just felt a bit sterile compared to a movie like this, where it's far more.
But her mom is a plant. and Hamtaro's in that movie.
Yes, and the dad's a bit of a creepy sex pervert for trying to ask a woman out that's like half his age.
But he's like, baby, I made a robot trilobite. You into that? Anyways,
I felt just everything just felt more, I guess, relatable and easier to like. There's a lot more like emotional resonance with these characters that I feel like it's easier for audiences to become attached to. There are many moments in this film where like these characters, their lives are in danger, and it's like this is probably like the most I've ever felt invested in a Godzilla cast in a long time. Certainly way more. I care way more about these characters than anything like, say, like the MonsterVerse has been able to provide.
Yeah, and also the fact that there was a child character that I didn't despise was really
right.
Funny.
Like so there's definitely like a found family.
Which I'm a sucker for, so immediately they had me.
Oh, sure, yeah. Like, for me, in recent years, I've sort of grown tired of the, family drama aspect of modern blockbuster action movies, only because they all sort of blend together as just this sort of, like, cheap and easy way to get people invested in the movie's plot, where it's like, oh, no, there's a giant lion attack, or shark, or monster, whatever, attacking the family.
But we gotta save the rec center.
Or that. Well, I think the protecting the family, save the family, rescue the family, that sort of replaced the rec center subplots from those days.
I mean, that's the subplot that 2014 tried to have and then completely forgot about it.
Right, yeah. So, like, 2014, Soldier Boy's got to save his wife and kid.
At all costs, and then they kind of forget about it.
King of the Monsters, the main guy has to save his wife and kid who have joined the eco-terrorists.
They kind of forgot about it.
GVK, there's a little found family thing going on between Gia and like the other people of Monarch as they try to help Kong discover
that one stuck it a little better than the others, but that's not the movie we're talking about.
Right, yeah. And it's like worlds apart, leagues apart from what this movie's trying to do. Yeah. And like, again, despite the fact that I've sort of grown tired of that trope, this movie won me over with how it was able to execute it.
Well, also I think because it did it on such a small scale rather than a big grandiose story of we're supposed to follow. This is one singular family we know, and then everyone around them, not like multiple families, multiple teams. We know the small gaggle of people we're introduced to progressively as opposed all at once. And which I think is the problem with American cinema. It's like, here's everybody now rather than we're going to meet them slowly.
Right. And it's not like this is like meant to be, as far as we know, it's not like this is meant to be like the start of a new series or the start of a cinematic universe or just like...
It could, given the way it ends. I have a pitch on how it could continue just based on the ending.
We'll get to that.
Maybe, but
I think it's not what you think. But we'll get to it.
Yeah,
but David, I think it's your turn.
Right. I was just gonna say, like, for the most part, the fact that it's a standalone story just helps this feel like a much more solid narrative. Anyways, David.
Yeah.
All right, let me just tuck in my own panties and let me look at my notes. So I like the pacing in this film. It's a 2-hour film. It's probably like the longest Toho Godzilla film since Final Wars, but it doesn't feel like 2 hours at times. It feels like, it moves fast, perfectly.
Yeah, I feel like I can definitely agree with that. I definitely feel like
it never feels boring.
No, that's what I think. Also, the fact that it's so different helped with it kind of run smoothly because again, it's the olden times. It's not like the modern beats of like technology where it's like, oh, this guy's gonna get on his computer, blah blah blah. It's like, oh, he's got to figure things out a different way.
Yeah, because it's a period piece. It's interesting, and because it's us Americans watching a period piece from Japan,
Yeah,
and we don't know nothing about a post-war Japan that was taught in our schools. It is interesting, and goes right next to my next point. Kamikaze pilots never been done before in Japan.
yeah, that's like I feel like that's such a taboo thing, huh?
It's never been done in a Godzilla movie, I mean to say, and I don't think Toho was able to get away with it in the 50s and 60s. If they did, it probably would have came off as unpatriotic, so close to after World War II. But it reminds me of films like I Live in Fear or Giants and Toys, where those films were critiques on whatever was invading Japan at the time. Giants and Toys was about capitalism, and I Live in Fear was about this guy that was afraid that another atomic bomb would drop on Japan at any time.
Yeah.
With this film, it feels like Godzilla represents the U.S., even though the movie doesn't really articulate that.
I don't know. I can see where you're coming from that, but no, continue. Continue. Yeah, continue.
Because the film is mostly told from the characters that are civilians. And in a way, Godzilla invades Japan almost in the same way how the Japanese feared the U.S. would invade Japan. At one point, they even said that those experimental Shinden, what were they, jets or planes?
I got planes.
Yeah.
They were prototypes were produced for an invasion of the homeland that never happened. But
yeah, because the occupation didn't happen in that film either.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about the invasion happened in the form of Godzilla.
Yeah.
And I've also read online that Godzilla represents unrelenting war in this film.
I can believe that. Like for me, he's a for me, like I mentioned in my little snippet, was that again, I feel like at least in my interpretation is him being just the looming threat of death that comes with the atomic bomb in war. That, like I said, even if it doesn't kill you right now, it's going to get you eventually. So I feel like it's the looming threat of that. And also, it's almost like guilt, too. Like, his guilt has gotten so large, metaphorically and physically, that Godzilla is now this literal looming threat that is coming to get him.
It also reminds me my friend Derek, who me, Sean, and Davis also saw the movie with, also known as Bonus Commentary on YouTube. Definitely check out his channel. Ladies and gentlemen, if you watching this, so he had a very similar perspective on what Godzilla may represent. Where in his interpretation was that when it comes to post-traumatic stress disorder, this is sort of like Godzilla is like an embodiment of that sort of trauma, where this is something where if you don't take care of right away, it's only going to fester and grow and become a bigger problem. Where I'm coming from. Yeah, it's going to grow to become a bigger problem that's going to affect more lives the longer this is you allow this to prolong.
Yeah, because if you had told somebody earlier, they could have investigated Odo Island. They could have taken him out earlier before he got superpowered.
Yeah, or the fact that he was in charge of taking care of that monster with his machine guns or his plane's guns, but was too afraid to deal with it at the moment. Again, very understandable reasons. It's a big giant fucking monster
that you've never seen before.
Yeah,
and the thing's right in your face.
And unfortunately, as a result of his actions, in his mind,
in actions, you should say.
As a result of his inactions, he sees that the death of everyone on that island as being his fault, and
it's the Spider-Man conundrum too. It's like if he didn't act, this wouldn't have happened.
Right? Oh yeah, exactly. Anyway, sorry. Continue, David.
That's all I got so far.
Okay.
You guys filled in most of the gaps.
Good.
All right, then. So, let's see. Going into I guess we've talked about the World War II period piece. I'm curious to know how well do you think this movie handled that aspect of the story?
David?
I feel like I shouldn't comment on it too much because I know very little about post-war Japan aside from what I've seen in the movies, but I liked what I saw, and what I saw gave the movie emotional depth. So I feel like That's the only thing I can comment on. It is the emotional depth that came from, like such a traumatic event like World War II.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that they were gonna cover Hiroshima and Nagasaki in this film, since it's.
I don't know if that fully happened in this film. That's the thing, because there was no U.S. occupation, as far as I could tell.
Well, yeah, I guess
that's like something.
That's always been like I guess I'll just say this right now. This has been my like biggest critique of the story, where I feel like it was a huge missed opportunity to just write out the U.S. occupation altogether. It seemed like this is a timeline where, for some reason, the occupation just never happened, and there's just zero presence of the U.S. military in this film at all.
Because the war definitely happened, but it didn't seem like it because they did the Castle Bravo tests, but at no point. I'm not sure if they met again. I'm seeing it again soon, but I don't remember them mentioning Hiroshima or Nagasaki at all.
I believe it's meant to be implied that it happened at some point.
Because in Gojira, the original Gojira, they straight up say like, "Oh yeah, like a year or two ago or whatever, fucking they bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki."
It's
they straight up say it.
Yeah, it's possible that they nuked the two cities, but they just, maybe it was like a throwaway line in this movie that we've all missed, or maybe it was just something that like the director intended people to. Because
the firebombing definitely happened. That's in the first scene.
Right.
But yeah, I think I stand in the same plane that David's at, where I definitely see it, but I feel like because of some of the revisionist history within the film, I feel like some of that is very much, either forgotten or just not glossed upon. Because again, they're trying to focus on one story, not tell too much, which again, for better or for worse of that aspect, it's like I'm trying to think the best way I can put it. It's like in 85 or 84 rather, the Cold War's fucking happening, but they're not straight up saying, "Oh, the Cold War is fucking going down." Like the fact that Russia and the US meet with them, but they're not like at each other's throats at that meeting. It's kind of the same deal where like the war has happened and is happening, but it's not explicitly stated that certain aspects of that war took place in this universe.
I think the
war's definitely over. That's for sure.
Yeah. The only mentioning they make of the U.S. military, I think, is like there was just 3 lines from. I really wish I knew the guy's name. The guy in charge of, in real life, the dude who was in charge, the general who was in charge.
Douglas MacArthur.
Thank you very much, Douglas MacArthur, who was in charge of the U.S. occupation of Japan. You hear 3 lines from him talking about how they're pulling out of Japan because they're afraid of the Russians, the Soviets, for some reason.
They said that they can't interfere because of tensions with the Soviets.
Yeah, so it makes it sound like the Cold War happened sooner.
Which is weird, in my opinion, because I thought like the whole reason why the U.S. was so hell-bent on occupying territories in Asia was to make sure they got a hold of those territories before the Soviets did. Though I could be completely wrong here.
Maybe. I think there might have been more to it because it can go into a whole thing about how Japan was destroying China and Korea and stuff, but that's a whole other side of history.
Yeah.
Like to forget that they've done anyways.
But I feel like I don't know. I do have to wonder if this was more of like a budgetary limitation or like a lack of resources.
It might have been pacing. It might have been just like they didn't want to focus on too much because at a certain point, you have to remember, we have to put Godzilla in this movie somewhere. Yeah,
but I do still feel like you could have had the American presence in this movie and still get to that point in the story where it's just this like local militia who decides, hey, if no one else is going to do it, might as well do it ourselves. Like maybe during... Go ahead.
I thought that was the direction they were going because I thought
it just wasn't explicit. It just wasn't like there wasn't like a physical presence. I think.
Right. Yeah, I think like it's possible that you could have had like the U.S. military there, and then Godzilla they just get wiped out along with the rest of Japan's military or self-defense or whatever.
I feel like that would have been neat, but I also feel like that would have been very contrived and very like. That's kind of like, because again, I think Shin Godzilla did a great job of taking the piss out of that already, of being like, like what the guys say, like, yes, payback.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Stiffly. That scene hurt my bones when I fucking watched it in theaters. When I saw the entire crowd cheer for that, I almost wanted to throw up.
I mean, that's what I was kind of wondering. It's like I'm wondering if maybe Yamazaki just didn't want to deal with any potential mediocre white actors in this movie.
Yeah, that, and also
because that would have most likely happened. It would have gotten some random white dude to play Douglas MacArthur, and he'll be like clearly the worst actor in this movie because of that language barrier.
Yeah, and also I feel like ever since Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, like they've not really done that anymore. Because they got in super trouble when that happened, from what I remember.
Well, there was some
it's
controversy.
Also possible that
Go ahead, David.
It's also possible that Yamazaki just didn't want to do something anti-American because it probably would have interfered with the whole point of Shikishima's trauma and that being the driving force of the whole movie.
Yeah, it's not American related. It's about himself. It's about him and his fucking struggle.
Yeah. And then what was the other thing I wanted to bring up?
Because while you're thinking of it, but I think very much like with the first movie, Godzilla, like, despite the war and all that stuff, Godzilla's still a story mostly about people.
Yes. Oh, now I remember. Yamazaki has stated that, like, the reason why he did not want to include the American occupation in this film was because he wanted the focus to be squarely on this ragtag group of characters.
Which is the mark of any good Godzilla film for me, I think.
Like, it certainly helps make the movie feel more focused, and it does raise the stakes, but I still feel like you could have done this another way and still get to that same conclusion. And also, it's just kind of weird that you would have a period piece without having the thing that made this. Like, it's weird to have, like, set it in occupation Japan without the occupation.
Yeah,
it's such a big part of that period.
It's why it seems like the occupation wasn't there.
Yeah, it's just weird to, like, set it in that time period, but not have the very thing that defines the time period.
Well, even in the first Godzilla movie, when they're driving Godzilla out of, like, near the climax of that action set piece, what jets are attacking him? Japanese jets. They're not American jets.
I guess that is true.
And, like, who are attacking Godzilla when he's in Japan?
Mm-hmm.
Even in the very first Godzilla movie, there's no U.S. military presence. The only time we ever got U.S. military presence really in a Godzilla movie, like, I would say unofficially, is in that added scene in Godzilla vs. Mothra.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, and also, again, I think that isn't that a whole thing that Japan doesn't want to see U.S. forces on their soil doing shit for them.
Interesting.
But, like, I think that was the reason why they didn't have that in the Japanese version, because they didn't want to see that shit.
I see. Though you do raise a good point that, like, very rarely is the U.S. military just involved in Godzilla stories in general. It's just it's just more. Go ahead.
Was it Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, the '90s version?
Yeah.
Where, again, take that, you dinosaur. Like, that was the only time we really saw that shit happen.
Right.
Ever. And even that raised fucking complaints from everybody.
Mm-hmm. No, maybe for Yamazaki, this might have been just, like, the easiest way to tell the story he wanted to tell. Yeah. It's just for me, because it's specifically a period piece, and it's one of, like, the defining features of this movie. It's just the lack of that U.S. involvement just really sticks out to me. I still like the story. I still like the story.
I see where you're coming from, but I feel like it's easily explainable why.
Okay. And I guess for you, David, did the lack of the U.S. military presence, was this ever a thing that bothered you, or was this something that you even noticed in the movie?
What I was trying to say earlier is that I thought it was going to go. I thought the movie was going to go in the direction that you were saying you hope would go into, because based on the trailers, I thought that the U.S. were the ones that drop an atom bomb on Godzilla.
That's what it looked like too. I agree with you.
I said straight up, that shot of Godzilla roaring at the atom bomb is one of my favorite shots of the movie before I saw the movie.
Oh yeah,
trailer. There's actually. What's so funny is that there's someone who put up a compilation of Godzilla -1 in scene order, but it's all trailer shots. So a lot of it was put together of what was implied. So they have the explosion go off first, and then the Godzilla roaring with his face all charred, because implying that that's how that sequence happened, when those scenes are very separate.
Yeah, so apparently Godzilla's face gets charred every time he uses his heat ray, as they call it in this version.
It didn't really seem that way.
I don't know. I mean, I think that I got that same impression as David, because I think there was one shot like right after he uses his atomic breath that you start seeing like the burn mark starting to heal on his face.
But then I point to, he was just shot by tanks like a minute ago before he fired his breath.
Oh no! This happened at the during the ocean battle.
Oh yeah.
A little bit, but even then he's getting hit by shit. Also,
but he was healing by that point from the little cannonball in his mouth.
Yeah, but maybe again I'm gonna have to rewatch it, but it didn't seem explicitly a result of his breath. Maybe a little bit, but not inherently so.
But if that was the case, I think that was like a really cool touch, that his own power is so great it actually hurts him to use it.
Well, yeah, which makes me, but then definitely seemed like he didn't have a big limit on how much he could do it. I kind of wish he did. Like, I wish he had a recharge time.
Oh, he did. Like, by the end of the movie, like, he uses it once on that dummy boat, and then that's when the doc, he goes, hey, he needs time to recharge. This is our time to start wrapping up our little bubble devices around him.
Oh, maybe I missed that part of the subtitle. Again, honestly, God, some of the stuff may have came from, like, I looked away for 2 seconds and I missed it.
Okay. I mean, honestly, that does happen to me too at home when I'm watching subtitled stuff on TV.
Yeah, I may have been reaching for popcorn or something.
Going back to the lack of the U.S. presence,
yeah.
I'm kind of reminded of Steve Rifle's complaint about Godzilla 2014, that film kind of does revisionism on its own by omitting the U.S.'s involvement with Godzilla's origins by, nuclear testing in the Pacific.
Oh, yeah,
and,
because I know with that movie, they did have the official support of the U.S. military for 2014, and as a result, there are certain restrictions with what you can or cannot do in your movie when you got that official support. Like, there was this whole backstory about what's the son's name, Ford?
Ford.
Yeah, Ford Brody. He had like. What was it? A very estranged relationship with his family as a result of that traumatic experience he had when he lost his mom at the start of the movie. But the U.S. military did not like that, and so they asked for that sort of like depth of the character to be removed, and that's why he's pretty stoic from beginning to end throughout that whole film.
Yeah, that's why he's not like shell shocked or whatever.
Yeah. Anyways, continue.
Even then, Godzilla 2014's lack of accountability on the U.S.'s part didn't bother me too much, although it would have been way interesting to see. But same thing with here in -1, the lack of the U.S. presence doesn't bug me too much, because I feel like we get too invested.
I would have wanted I would feel like correspondence with the U.S. at least would have been nice, like more than just a like passing document.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I almost wish they did an homage to like our U.S. reporter being there, being like, "Oh shit!"
Oh, that would have been cool.
That would have been kind of cool, because we get the guy, the guy who examines the trilobite there in the background of one scene.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, right after the scene after Godzilla attacks, if you look at everybody, like, the crowd of protesters in front of the rubble, you actually see a guy in a hat with the big glasses on with the Geiger counter.
Oh, wow.
Who's very much supposed to be the guy who is in the original film looking at the footprint.
Yeah.
I missed that completely.
You really have to be like, oh, that's that guy. Like, you really have to like...
one of those blink and you miss it moments?
It's also like, someone like me who watched that movie a bazillion times as a child, I know everyone, like, what everyone looks like immediately.
Cool.
Like, that's just me.
And let's see, other aspects.
Like the fact that Noriko, the fact that Noriko looked like Momo Kokochi, like the actress who played Emiko, like, yeah. So I don't know. Oh,
did she have like a similar hairstyle or wardrobe?
She just looked like her, like her facial features. She just looked like Momo Kokochi. So.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Hopefully, I'm saying that. Yeah, Momoko Kochi. Yeah.
Were there other aspects of the story that you guys enjoyed that you want to discuss?
I liked Godzilla's characterization in this film, because I feel like, again, it's a thing where like it couldn't be like visualized in the first one, but when they say Godzilla was supposed to be this wild animal, they really brought that aspect to life of him basically staggering into town, ripping shit apart, but like not even in a way where he knows what he's doing. He's just fucking like attacking shit like he doesn't understand it, which I thought was really interesting. And then even when what's his face? Shikishima is like flying around him in that plane, he's like biting at him. You know, he's not just kind of like looking at him angrily or like whatever. He's like physically trying to get him out of his face. So I feel like Godzilla had a lot of personality. Even when he's chasing the boat, he could have easily like swum after them faster or like done something interesting, but he's like predatory in nature. Like he looks them in the face and he swims at them. Like he's like, I'm going to get you and I want you to know that I'm coming. So like he had a lot more, he had a very interesting personality as far as Godzilla's has been concerned, which again, that was my biggest complaint about Shin Godzilla. That thing had no personality. Maybe it's part of its, design, but at the same time, that's not why I go into Godzilla. I go into Godzilla because Godzilla himself is an interesting creature to observe when he's on screen. So whenever he's able to be given like character nuances, like again, biting at the plane, like roaring at things when he's swimming at them. He literally when they fire the blow up the mine in his face and he stands up, he literally looks at them like, really, guys?
Now you're in for it.
So like I love that about his characterization in the film. He's a monster, but he has something going on in his head where he's like, y'all are gonna get it, and I'm gonna make sure you know I'm doing it. Even when he's a Godzillasaurus, which is also one of my favorite fucking parts of the movie, he's like roaring in like, you're on my island, get out.
What are you doing in my swamp?
Basically, but then again, it's very much like the Godzillasaurus scene in Ghidorah. It's like he's here being like, hey, get out of here.
What did you want to say, David?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I agree that one of the things I hated about Shin Godzilla was Godzilla himself, because he was just so static, so...
he was boring. Like you could say, he was boring as shit.
I am still baffled by the people the supporters of that film that say that is the most scariest version of Godzilla to date before -1. And I'm like, no.
Like he was menacing for sure, but scary, no. It was I'll put it this way: it was unsettling. It wasn't scary.
I guess for me, it's like I'm definitely a big supporter of Shin Godzilla, and I like that certain emotionless portrayal of Godzilla. For me personally, this is just a matter of like comparing apples to oranges, where they're two very different stylistic approaches to portraying Godzilla, where on one hand you have this very bestial, enraged, animalistic take on Godzilla that you see here in -1, where he's just this like lumbering beast who's, unfamiliar to this setting, and he'll just swipe at anything that he doesn't recognize or anything that might pose as a threat to him. He's like, have you ever seen like footage of like bears invading like human territories
or a crocodile?
Oh yeah, and like the moment
the moment they're not moving, and then the moment something gets in their vicinity, they fucking activate.
Right.
And one could say because I remember I read some comparison where it's like, oh, it's like 54. I'm like, you didn't watch that film close enough, because 54 Godzilla, even though he's pretty static because of the way the suit was made. There's the clock tower scene where he's literally roaring at an inanimate object.
Or do you remember the radio tower?
Yeah, then the radio tower. That one's probably one of my favorite scenes, even though it's puppetmation.
Yeah.
He looks those guys in the eye and then bites that tower they're on and crushes it.
Or the bridge at the end, like right before he leaves Tokyo, he's like, fuck this bridge as well.
Yeah,
or when he's physically introduced earlier in the movie, he's looking at the villagers and then he roars. Yeah, then he looks again and sees Emiko and roars again.
Yeah, he like leans over the mountainside. So he had personality despite the limitations of his suit. There were so many scenes in Shin Godzilla where it looked like he was about to react or do some sort of like pose, like what is it? I think it's when they blow the bridge off in his face and then you see him like kick a bridge.
Well, you don't see it because he's covered in smoke, so that they don't have to animate him kicking the bridge.
And it looks like he's about to let out a big roar or like no. Oddly enough, he has more personality when he's Shinagawa and Kamada-kun.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, the thing that I always said about Shin Godzilla is that the problem with that version is that it's a version that can easily be replaced with a toy, and you would have the same effect. But you look at all the other Godzillas, especially the -1 version, it can only be achieved with CG.
Yeah, well, because that's what I was saying from the beginning, where it's like this is the way Godzilla was intended to act in the first movie. You know, again, a la throwing train cars, like whipping entire city blocks in half. Like he was implied to be doing that, but we didn't get to see that because the technology wasn't there.
I would say like -1's portrayal of Godzilla is certainly closer to the spirit of the original 54 Godzilla. I'm just saying like I still enjoy the sort of like emotionless monolith take that we see in Shin Godzilla and especially with Singular Point, where they're just, I guess it's the fact that they have no emotion. You cannot connect or relate to it at all. That to me makes it more like unsettling or threatening or just very ominous. I think the idea was to turn Godzilla into like a literal storm. Like people have made comparison to like Godzilla's like a force of nature. It's like a giant typhoon or tsunami or tornado.
But he was more like machine-like in those movies, though, like where he just wasn't moving. Like the closest he's gotten that, even in the regular ones, is like Tokyo SOS. He's got nothing going on that movie.
That is true. Yeah, he just shows up just for the fight scenes.
Gets dunked on for 20 minutes and it's over. But yeah, no. Again, I think that would make Godzilla more scary because again, it's this giant. My friend has horses, to bring it to some other animal. Those are these giant looming creatures. You know, big creatures. They're gentle if they're handled right, but again, easily they can get freaked out and cause like chaos. And they're unpredictable if you don't understand them, much like Godzilla, where, again, there was times where he's just walking, not really looking around, not doing anything, and then 2 seconds later, he's whipping his head around, he's biting things, he's slashing at things. Like, that's what makes it more scary, where you can have those moments of him, emotionless, and then snap cut to he is then, going crazy.
Yeah. And I guess despite the fact that I enjoy both interpretations of Godzilla, I certainly definitely enjoyed this one more, admittedly, than Shin.
Yeah. Agreed.
And let's see, another aspect I liked about Godzilla is it's a very interesting choice where he doesn't have like a very fluid walk cycle. Rather, he just takes each step feels very deliberate. He takes like a short pause between each step, as if my interpretation of this was that he is so like heavy, bigger than he naturally is supposed to be, that it takes a lot of effort to move his body weight around, and that he just needs like a short break before each step.
And I feel like some of that comes with the fact that he used to be like, he himself knows that he used to be smaller. Like, because remember when he was big, when he was smaller, he was like pretty carte blanche about like walking around, stepping on shit.
Oh yeah, he definitely moved a lot more fluidly at the start of the film before he was mutated.
Yeah, so I feel like it really comes with that of the increase of size. I think he's very calculative of himself.
Yeah, and it's clear that like he's far more comfortable in the water than he was on land.
Yeah, because in the water he's like treading on top of the water, looking around, doing all that cool shit. So yeah, no, agreed.
Absolutely. Let's see. I did want to move on to like the other human characters, the supporting cast, but was there anything else you guys wanted to mention about Godzilla?
I loved his eyes.
I do like them. They're very expressive eyes. Granted, he only expresses rage, but it's still a very rageful eyes. Yeah,
it reminds me of that. It just like I said, it reminds me of like a crocodile or something like that, where you see it. You're like, there's no way anything's going on in that head, and then it moves, and you're like, fuck, yes, there is.
Yeah. And for you, David?
No, the same thing, too. I like the eyes. That was something that I noticed that they were static, but there was something going on behind them.
Cool.
Also, like the fact that they were kind of like this brown golden color. I don't think that's ever been done with Godzilla before.
I want to say in the Heisei series, he had like hazel brownish eyes, I think.
Also,
and in Millennium, he had gold eyes too.
Also, I do like that his healing factor is like more emphasized in this film. And like the first time it's introduced was when like that mine exploded in his mouth, and then you see like just the sound effect. It just sounds so unpleasant when you see hear and see all that
hurts
skin.
Too.
Yeah,
because I think that's what I like about it is that he's indestructible, but he can still feel that pain.
Yeah. This is like it hurts him to use to heal. It hurts him to
and the
walk,
fact that scar on his face stayed there the entire film.
Oh right, yeah.
That's why he has those brown blotches on him. We've come to find is because he's been pelted with like bombs and missiles and shit.
That's just like new skin growing on top of the old skin.
Yeah, just hadn't time to like tan or get sun exposure.
Right. Let's see. Moving on to the supporting cast. For me, like, not only did I really like the family that Shikishima sort of grows to care about. Like, there was Noriko, and there was the Akiko, the little baby. But I also loved the people, the crew that he had on the boat for I think it's called the Shinsei Maru.
And I like the neighbor woman too.
Oh
Sumiko.
yeah. She really comes around. She has her own little character arc throughout the movie where.
Well, yeah, because again, she's clearly distraught because the fire bombings had just happened.
Right.
And she sees this guy who she had known. Like it's clear that she knew him.
Yeah. As
this brave young soldier boy, from her hometown, being like, "Oh, I'm so glad. What a courageous thing to do." When he comes back alive, and she's like, "You like." I think half of her was just distress of being like, you see what happened here. This is your, like, I don't think she expressly was like mad at him.
Yeah.
I think she was overall just pissed, but you could feel that pain in her being like, you're a disgrace. I can't believe you're here.
Right. Which I'm sure like must have happened a lot in that time period where in that time you live for the emperor, you die for the emperor. And so just sort of like coming back as a failure would be like the greatest sin you could ever commit in that culture at that time. So it was really interesting to see them touch upon that.
Yeah, so I feel like that was interesting. Like I liked her, and again, the fact that then she had to basically, because at first she was like, "Yeah, I'm not going to help you mother this child." Cut to, "I'm helping mother this child." Right.
Yeah, she really comes around to sort of. She's essentially part of that family as well.
Which is nice because you could start calling her auntie.
Yeah. I was about to bring that up. Yeah, it was very touching, and the fact that like. Shikishima, he wasn't sure if he was going to come back or not from that climax, and it's like, please, like, just leaves a letter for Sumiko to say like, hey,
this money's for her.
This is for her. Please take care of her if I'm not back. Essentially, is what he's saying.
Yeah, which is again which was sad, but is also like, man, what a dude.
Yeah. But on top of that, I also really loved the crew of the boat that they were on.
They were great. They were fantastic. Like, instantly fell in love with them from moment one.
Yeah. You just felt like they were just this like group of friends. Even like you could tell they really did bonded with each other. The fact that they're like, they all
care about each other. They had nicknames. The fact they had nicknames for each other.
Yeah, Doc and Kid. They also like they hung out. They drink together. They hang out at Shikishima's house.
And continue.
No, it was just that like you can feel that camaraderie shine throughout the movie, and it's like
again, that's where I say that if we were to throw another comparison to Shin Godzilla, none of those characters, like I hate to say it, those characters were not likable. They weren't friends really.
No,
you could tell some of them like it was weird because they tried throwing there was really blink if you miss it moments where you see that one guy has a family when he's checking his phone.
Yeah,
the other dude has like a girlfriend. But you really, if you blinked, you'd miss it. This one was like, these characters feel lived with. I care what happens to them. I'll be real with you. I didn't give a shit about everyone in Shin Godzilla. I really didn't. Like,
and I guess that was, you could say that was by design. That was like intentional.
Maybe? But then again, that's just Anno being Anno.
Yeah. It's like clearly Anno wanted to. I always got the feeling that Anno just wanted to like intentionally go off the beaten path and just like throw all the conventional rules of storytelling and throw them in the trash and say, fuck it, I'm doing my thing now.
Well, it's also because he doesn't know how to fucking make anything. Oh shit, did I just say that?
Oh my god, how dare you! Anno's the greatest thing as filmmaker ever! He created everything you ever loved and care about!
Get over your dad, you fucking hack! Christ.
And this is coming from people who really enjoyed Shin Kamen Rider.
Yeah, no, it really is. But my least favorite part is like, oh, my dad was a cop.
Like, get over yourself, Ano. You've had
you've
had 60 years to get over your shit.
Christ, fucking, you made Cutie Honey. That was an uncle. She didn't even give a fuck about her dad. Fuck you. Anyway,
Oh, wait.
Shit, I just remembered.
His dad was a cop for real?
I don't know.
No. In Shin Kamen Rider, his dad was a cop.
Yeah, and then like what was it, like every character from most of these movies, it's always like the main protagonist has daddy issues. Even as going all the way back to Gunbuster.
In Shin Godzilla, the American Japanese girl, she was like, Dad.
Jesus Christ!
My dad won't let me drop a bomb on Godzilla.
Or what was it, like Gunbuster? The Noriko, she's like upset that her dad just went missing before the events of the OVA series.
Yeah, and then Coach is like, "I'm your dad now, and I'm dying of cancer." Anyways,
now pilot the robot. But anyways. Yeah, this isn't about Ano. This is about Yamazaki and -1, which...
No, but anyways, the characters of this movie were much more lovable.
Yes.
I gave a shit about them. And again, a lot of people were telling me, like, it was very heartwarming. A lot of scenes. Even the kid, I was like, I love the kid to survive. Like, I was like, when she cried, I felt bad.
Yeah, and legitimately, the ending of this movie legit brought me to tears. And I can't remember the last time a Godzilla movie has made me felt that way. I don't know.
Maybe every Godzilla makes me cry. This one didn't. It will probably make me cry later. I just didn't want to do it in public. I mean, Godzilla's Revenge makes me cry, but that's because that movie touches me special. I love that movie. Sorry, I'm a defender of that one.
That is perfectly fine.
That's all of us.
I guess one moment I certainly loved from this movie was when what was it? The youngest dude in their crew. He was like the least experienced. He didn't get the chance to join the war, even though he wanted to.
Oh yeah, that seems great.
There's a little back and forth with Shikishima where he's like, "No, it's like, oh man, I want to be part of the war." Like, don't fucking say that.
Yeah, and like he literally looked at him like, "You're kidding, right?" Like that. Like we hated that we had to do that,
Yeah, and what was it? I also enjoyed that one moment where it's like the rest of his crew were willing to do that final climax without him. They're like, you're the youngest. You don't carry the burden that we do as veterans. You're better off.
They even say they secure the future.
We leave the future up to you.
Well, that's why it was so breaking when he's like, "Take me with you, let me go with you guys. We're a team. Like that was so good.
Yeah, I love that. And then lastly, there was Tachibana, who was like the only other survivor from Odo Island. And
that was great. Yeah, like the fact that are we going to dive in that part about him too?
We could, but what was it that David wanted to say?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I hate to bring up Ano again, but that's another thing.
Oh no,
we're gonna upset all the Ano fans here.
Well, yeah, this is the only time I'll be able to piss them off without any
getting death threats.
Yeah,
you're just too much. You're just too much of a coward to put this on your own YouTube channel.
Yes,
yes,
you know me perfectly, Andres.
You can send all the hate things to KaijuNoir at KaijuNoir.com.
Shin Ultraman sucks.
Well, I love Shin Ultraman.
Whoa.
I love Shin Ultraman.
Whoa, hey.
Whoa, hey. Oh, you got my man all wrong here. Whoa.
He's the best guy around.
What murders?
What murders?
Andres, I forgot that we used to do Christopher Walken impressions.
Oh, now you got my man all wrong here.
I had this beta capsule up my ass for 40 years.
I put up my ass, and my father was Minya. Anyways,
as I was saying,
piss off Ano fans now.
Do it.
One of the things I loved about this movie is that it honors Ishiro Honda's pacifistic views, where opposed to Shin Godzilla is more pro-nationalistic, with that line that Rando Higuchi says that true bravery is found in the battlefield or something like that, and here the line they say, never experiencing war or combat in war is something to be proud of. That's like, that's great right there.
It's like having the gun but not having to use it kind of stuff. It's like you'd be damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Oh, for sure,
That's one of the subtle themes I loved about this movie, is that it honors Ishiro Honda, but in Takashi Yamazaki's own way.
Oh yeah, well, he even said I'm honoring my family's wishes of me to live.
Oh,
they
right,
told me to live.
And what was it? There was like a point where the doc, he is pretty much like saying that we need to value life more than our own government did when we were in the middle of war. He brought up how the tanks were fragile, that the planes had no ejection seats,
no armor.
No armor. It's just willingly throw your lives into just throw yourselves into the fire for the greater good, where it's no, we need to value life, we need to value each other, and we need to value ourselves as individuals. We can't just recklessly handle things the way that our former leaders did, and we must go at this in a way where we can try to save as many lives, not recklessly make needless sacrifices. And that was
that's another thing I loved about this movie, is that I didn't know that the Japanese Imperial Navy did that in World War II. And as a fellow
had bad technology or something,
just on purpose, poor supplies, poor medication, poor armor on their tanks. I didn't know that, and as an aspiring screenwriter, I'm told all the time to try to add a little bit of information that the audience doesn't know. That way they can come off with a little food for thought. And that's great on Yamazaki's part, because I did not know that the Japanese Navy did that, and that's something that added more to the emotional depth behind the film.
Oh, sure. And it is kind of interesting that the story goes out of its way to make sure they're not trying to say that Japan was right or the US was right. It's we're doing things because we think it's right, and that we have to stand up for ourselves if regardless of what the US or Japan thinks about it.
Yeah, no, agreed.
But anyways, were there any other, because this all started when we were talking about side characters, were there any that stood out to you, David, in particular?
In a way, I feel like all these characters, going back to Ishiro Honda, I feel like all these characters, especially Shikishima, in a way represent him and all the poor young Japanese men that were drafted into World War II. Because I read that Ishiro Honda biography book by Steve Reifel and Ed Godzichowski, and Ishiro Honda never wanted to be in the war. He never supported the Imperial Navy, and he was forced into it. So I feel like the Shikishima abandoning his duties as a kamikaze pilot, I felt that was an interesting approach to take the character, the main character, and the story into, because like I said, I don't think Toho would have been I don't think they could have gotten away with it in the 50s and 60s, because more than likely there was still some patriotism going around that time. They were probably still salty that they lost the war and all that, but now, what is it, 70 years later, they can tell a story like that.
It is interesting that they were able to touch upon that. Let's see. Anything else about this movie that you guys want to delve into?
I felt that they utilized Akira Fukube's themes better here.
Yeah, they definitely they didn't feel tacked on for the sake of having them. It was interesting that they used the full versions of each, though, because a lot of people forget that the Godzilla theme has the aspects of the King Kong theme in it too.
Yeah, and the Mothra theme, you hear the Mothra theme as well. Da 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 da. Yeah, it was cool. Because those are aspects of the Godzilla themes that you don't hear as often. So it's kind of cool to see them incorporate them into the score. I'm glad that the movie itself is trying to be more reliant, isn't so reliant on stock music like a lot of the Shin Ono movies have, where this has its own identity. It feels it has its own score. I love that haunting theme when things get very tensed, literally sitting on the edge of your seat intense, not knowing how things were going to go, if things were going to go as planned or things were going to go horribly wrong. And the sound effects themselves, like I only wish like I kind of want to see this. I do want to see this movie again, hopefully in an IMAX theater, just so I can get that like higher quality sound system. Just because even in that small theater room that I was in, just like the sound design, the music, every single like footstep or crunch or blast that Godzilla produces, it's just like a very how do you say, very visceral experience, just hearing all of this chaotic noise and intensity blast through.
Yeah, the sound design I thought was very good. I feel like one thing I've been getting sick of is hearing Showa era roars or the classic Godzilla roar out of a Godzilla. But I feel like he made enough other sounds even on top of his Godzilla roar that made it better. Like even when he's a Godzillasaurus, he's like screeching.
Oh yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
And even when he does heavily use the 54 roar, but it's definitely like, again, put through enough filters, added in to where it's like it sort of starts to sound like its own thing. Though it would be interesting. Like I think fans are starting to get sick of hearing like the same roars being reused over and over again.
Yes,
so,
yes.
I do wonder when Toho is going to finally start like doing stuff like that, because
that's why that's why I am so in love with again, say what you will, but I love Legendary Godzilla's roar.
Oh yeah, like, it's very completely unique.
When I first heard that, I'm like, it's exactly what it should be, and it still sounds recognizable as a Godzilla sound. Again, hell, I even love Godzilla 98's roar. I think that roar is fantastic.
Oh yeah, it's not a bad roar. It's a good roar.
It's probably my like third favorite.
Cool. Trying to think what else. Okay, so there was one thing that sort of like, it's not so much the sound, but this is a thing that I did notice, and I brought this up to you, Frank, before we started recording, and that was, as much as we mentioned how much we enjoyed this, it seems like we all enjoyed this movie more than Shin. It's
yes.
But I couldn't help but feel like this movie was made as a means of Toho trying to make lightning strike twice, because Shin was like a success. It was a far greater success than they ever had any like it blew their expectations out of the water with how successful it was, not just internationally but especially in Japan itself.
Well, I feel like really, like, not to cut you off about it, but I feel like half of that success, I will say, unfortunately, is derived not from the film itself, but the fact that at the time there hadn't been a new Godzilla thing from Japan specifically, movie-wise, since 2004.
And I also want to include Anno in there as well, as he was like I feel like he was definitely
and also
big
like new and upcoming. Yeah, new. Well, again, so it's one of those things where like, even if it sucked absolute butt, or at least wasn't as good as people say it is now, I feel like the fact that again, it was like we had the MonsterVerse and all that stuff going strong. Godzilla was back in the States in the public conscious. So the fact that any Godzilla, anything Japan-wise, like even the Godzilla goddamn hotel opened up, people were like, oh, fuck! Like, people were losing it over it. So I feel like, I don't want to discredit Shin Godzilla, but I feel like a lot of its lasting hype really came from the fact that, like, Godzilla is back. Yeah. Here you go.
And it's made by the Evangelion guy.
Yeah, so it's like not only is Godzilla back, but it's made by one of the most renowned, prolific guys, you know, who makes stuff.
Right. You know, we can talk shit about him all we want, but like
it's undeniable his pedigree is something to note.
Right,
so I feel like it's almost like with Star Wars, you know, with Star Wars stuff, nothing Star Wars was made, and then I don't know where fucking what's his name,
George
J.J.
Lucas?
Abrams.
Oh, okay.
J.J. Abrams takes Star Wars. People are like, "Oh fuck, J.J. Abrams, Star Wars." Yeah, like it's like that kind of thing where it's like the name attached, the fact that there's not been any new thing from said property. So a lot of those are dreadful. Now at this point, it's the fact that Godzilla is now back in the public consciousness. Like after Shin, there was the anime movies, there was the next MonsterVerse movie. There was another Godzilla thing in Japan. There was then the next MonsterVerse movie. So it's like there has not been a shortage of Godzilla since Shin Godzilla. So it's not so much a matter of there's been a drought since then.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like it was, I think if there was a drought, this movie again would have been like, oh, fuck, more Godzillas finally.
Yeah, but I feel like in terms of like Japanese Godzilla productions, Shin is clearly like still to this day the most successful venture that Toho has had with the character.
Then again, production wise and like value wise, the movie does not look as good as this movie does. That doesn't even have to do with the year it was made in. There's movies that are made before these two movies that look better than them. So I'm not even talking up to technology.
And it also helps that this movie seemingly had a longer turnaround point than Shin Godzilla did. I think Shin Godzilla was made in like within a year, whereas this one felt like it had like maybe 2 years.
Ano does not give himself enough time to do stuff anymore because he's afraid people are going to lose it on him.
I don't know if it's that or maybe it was just Toho saying like, we got to produce a movie, like 2014 was a success. We got to produce our own movie to show them who really knows the character, and we got to do this like as fast as soon as possible.
And they're like, oh no, we cooked him too fast. He's all burnt looking.
They should have let him cook. Damn it.
Yeah, you put him in we didn't put him in the pressure cooker. We just fucking threw him in the fryer.
But what I was trying to say is that, like, you know, so the anime films did nothing to help the brand.
If anything, the anime films hurt the brand a lot. I'm not even kidding. Like, one of my friends who does not like Godzilla saw the anime Godzilla movies and literally texted me and said, "I don't see why you like these."
Trash.
Kinda, and I felt bad. I was like, oh, and then I showed him something better. I was like, okay, Godzilla's not shit, but because everyone was like saying how hyped they were for it, and then they're like, this is dog shit. Godzilla's like, I actually thought like this would have just ended Godzilla's career. It was so close. Yeah, those movies are so bad. I don't give a fuck what people think. Those movies are so bad. And
then like Singular Point came out, and it's like
Singular Point was good, and then fans were like, "It's too smart for me."
And then like everyone's like wondering like, so are we gonna get a season 2? Toho?
I want that!
Hello?
I want it!
Toho? Hello? Anyone? Can we get an answer here? Please?
Why does the fandom have to be so demanding and that's so stupid?
So anyways...
He got so pissed that he disappeared.
It's literally that peace I'm out meme where he just does the peace and then disappears.
Yeah, it's when the world needed him most, he vanished.
So anyways... It still feels like, you know...
I hate the anime trilogy. He should feel bad and he's not making this anymore. Sorry.
Anyways, so it feels like this movie seemingly... I just... By the halfway point, I started thinking to myself, wait a minute. The structure of this movie, of this narrative, feels awfully familiar, where we have...
It's like it's a Godzilla movie where every beat's kind of been the same thing.
Kind of, but it's like we haven't had many solo Godzilla movies. We've only ever had like 54 and 84. And not counting the American ones, but it's just...
I will say in a weird way, Raids again becomes a solo Godzilla movie halfway through.
Kind of, but the fact that there is a second monster in there, it's like, that's still, like, you know...
Is there, though?
Yes, I'm going to argue yes.
No, I love that movie.
Don't you diss my boy Anguirus like that.
I just want to be contrarian. He's my favorite one.
So, you know, you start off with a movie where you see Godzilla very early on in an earlier form before he shows back up, bigger and badder than ever. Then
Can I just say I am glad there was no second monster. I would have left.
Sure. I guess for me personally, I feel like after 2 back-to-back Japanese solo Godzilla movies, I actually would prefer having another monster if Toho ever decides to make another movie after this.
The thing is, though, I would want it in Suitmation. I don't know how I'd feel about two Toho monsters duking out in CG, other than those fan films that are being made. I guess just doesn't theme with our Godzilla, with our big Godzilla now.
Did you ever see Godzilla the Ride, which was done by Yamazaki?
You know what? You're right. Let me dial that back. Yeah, no, that would be cool. Never mind.
But anyway, so it's like, as I was saying, like the thing that really I started noticing the most was like near the halfway point of the movie, Godzilla has his big giant destruction sequence. He shows off his atomic breath in full for the first time ever. An important character
live and in person on ice.
Yes, an important person gets written out of the movie. In Shin Godzilla was the prime minister. Here it was Noriko. And then by the end, everyone's at the lowest.
Well, they don't replace Noriko like they did the prime minister.
Right. But that, you know what I'm trying to say here. You know, an important character, important to the plot is written out, and then everyone bands together to come up with a cockamamie scheme to deal with Godzilla. And then by the end, it's over. Or is it? So
again, let me point to Raids again. Once again, the big showdown happens.
Yeah.
Then Kobayashi dies, and then they go back home, and then they make a big plan.
Yeah, it's true. It's but that's the thing. It's like, you know,
I know I'm being vindictive about it.
Raids again happened in 54. Meanwhile, Shin Godzilla again is like what, 8 years old at this point.
Godzilla Revenge. Big Godzilla scene happens. Little boy gets kidnapped, has to fight burglars, and then he wins.
You shut up.
He comes up with a plan to fight the burglars. I rest my case, motherfucker.
But what I'm saying is, it feels a bit like that meme where it's like, hey, can I copy your homework? Sure, just don't make it too obvious. But in the back of my head, I couldn't help but think that Yamazaki or whoever, you know, his staff was like doing in some way trying to recapture what made Shin Godzilla so successful back in 2016.
Well, I suppose. Well, again, I feel like the idea of camaraderie and finding like the strength.
Oh no, yeah, it's a
will.
Very,
it's universal.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like there are plenty of like blockbuster movies with that same format.
So for me, I find that hard to as a point of contention for me, at least for me.
Yeah.
Where it's like that wouldn't be a complaint. It's like, no, that's just a smart thing to do, and that's always been the spirit of the Godzilla films to begin with.
Sure, that's understandable. I get that. It's just like for me,
so
it doesn't hurt the movie itself in a vacuum. But just coming right off the heels of Shin Godzilla, it felt just a tad bit derivative. A bit of like, we've been here before. We've done this before. It's still great, but it feels a tad bit too familiar. Just, again, like so, however many years it's been since Shin. But for you, David, did you notice any similarities between this and Shin Godzilla, like even like thematic wise or just like structural wise?
Kinda. I feel like I already brought this up. It feels like the opposite of Shin Godzilla, especially after they have that meeting to form the plan to sink Godzilla and decompress him. Where in Shin Godzilla they gathered the army and Rando says, you know, true courage lies in the battlefield, you know, that pro-nationalistic propaganda. Here it's like kind of similar, but it's the opposite. It's, you know, like what was the themes that we were talking about that the movie says, live for the future or something like that?
Yeah,
it's similar in that regard to Shin Godzilla, but like I said, I liken it more to Godzilla Raids Again because it has a slightly similar structure, not just because it involves pilots, but also because, you know, it has these characters that have just suffered this tragedy. Godzilla and Anguirus have just destroyed their shit, and they gotta regroup, and then they form a plan, and the plan itself is actually a trap to defeat Godzilla and so on. And then the person that you thought dies. Well, in Godzilla Raids Again, Kobayashi does die, and here, I guess the character that dies actually is not actually dead,
but
she will be, unfortunately.
To take a slight thing, I was looking up. My friend brought up the black rain that follows. That gives everyone radiation poisoning.
Yeah. Very haunting.
So my one friend thought that was like it's like a Shin Godzilla. No, that's just the effect of black rain. Which actually did happen in real life after the bombings. Yeah, and well, I mean, even our main dude got it all over him.
Yeah.
So he's gonna die eventually.
Yeah, and again, that's the horror of Godzilla. Even if he's gone, his effect is gonna kill you eventually.
Oh man, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, no, that's what makes it so genius and tragic. Which was so strange about Shin Godzilla. He ate radiation, so he was taking it away. I don't know.
Yeah, and then there was that sort of contrivance where it's like, oh, it looks like Godzilla's radiation is a special radiation that has a very short half-life, so all the radiation in Tokyo is eventually going to evaporate in a very short amount of time. So
this is we're still fucked, even though Godzilla's dead. We're still fucked.
It's like I have my pseudo wife here, but not for long.
Yeah, no. So I think I still like that. Someone has said had a complaint about that. I'm like, no, I feel like that's more true to the long-term effects of that. Even downright to, if you want to make a comparison, Serizawa, he was missing his eye from the war. the casualties of war and the consequences that come from that stuff is still very apparent. People just like like Ogata, as far as I know, he was still permanently like scarred up and stuff, you know, with his head injury from the fight and then other injuries he sustained from the attack. Like, so it was very much like, yeah, the long-lasting effects of Godzilla's presence brings pestilence, brings destruction, brings like just bad. It was bad, you know.
But sorry, what was it that you wanted to mention before, David? When I asked about like the comparisons between this and Shin.
Well, yeah, like I said, there were slight similarities with Shin, especially during those meetings and how they go about defeating Godzilla. But I feel like it's more similar to Godzilla Raids Again, and of course, the second time Godzilla uses his atomic breath, where you see its full destructive power, is very, very reminiscent of GMK.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. I mentioned before that Yamazaki had stated that GMK was one of his big 3 inspirations, and the fact that, yeah, he had an atomic breath that could produce a literal nuclear mushroom cloud explosion was like one sign of that. And then like the very last shot of the movie where you see the remains of Godzilla starting to heal again reminiscent of the heart from the end of GMK.
Yeah,
it kind of feels like Yamazaki looked at these Godzilla films that he liked, but improved upon them. He's like, okay, this is where the direction you guys should have gone, so I'm going to show you how it's done.
I'm not sure if this is more like him wanting to show how it's done, because he obviously has a lot of respect for the franchise and for the people who previously worked on them. So maybe this is just his way of sort of like paying tribute to those same filmmakers, as opposed to saying this is how it's done. Or rather, this is just, hey, like paying tribute while also trying to do his own take on things.
Yeah, I can see that too. He seems like a more chill guy.
Let's see. Anyways, so is there anything else left to talk about this film before we give our our final thoughts?
I think that one of my thing I wish I saw more of is maybe that even is a final thought, but I definitely wish we had a little bit more of pre-mutation Godzilla, just a little bit. I definitely would have loved to see the actual transformation. I feel like that went a little too quickly.
That is a bit of a missed opportunity there, and a good chance to characterize Godzilla and to just show people a side of him, more vulnerable side of him that we've never seen before.
Yeah, which again was because it was kind of interesting because we got to see like his eyes and stuff kind of change over in a really quick scene, but I feel like we wish we got like a teensy bit more, because I feel like there was one line in the trailer that I don't think I heard once in the film.
He will never forgive us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that. That was weird.
So I feel like that was a missed opportunity, because again, I feel like that's kind of where I was, because again, his vengeance is real, but like I wish we at least got like a taste of that.
Right, it's never focused on, and like there's just a throwaway line where it's like, it's been however many years since that happened. He must have grown bigger than he was before. I'm like, wait, so they don't know he's a mutant? What's going on here?
Yeah, so I wish there was at least like 1 or 2 scenes, either like a conversation someone had, or like it almost, even though it would have been revisionist and like it would have taken away from some of his aspects of him not firing the gun at him. But I almost feel like if he left like a scar on his face, it would have been more of like oh shit, he remembers I did that. Or like he remembers we attacked his island, like, because it was his island. Maybe if they at least had a line where it's like, oh, he's mad because we like, used his island where he lives as our military base, just something. But yeah, I was hoping that line would come up for some reason, but like it's implied, and you can at least think that, because it definitely is that situation where he was changed by us.
And yeah, that part is never really brought up or focused upon. Mostly whenever anyone talks about Godzilla, it's about getting rid of him or dealing with him, as opposed to understanding why he's even there in the first place.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. I mean, in Godzilla 1985, Raymond Burr wanted to find out why, Godzilla's in Japan.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about like -1 in particular.
Yeah. Yeah, just the old idea that it seems like he has like outward vengeance, but to whom?
Mm-hmm. Okay then. So I guess time for final thoughts. So, David, you can go first. Overall, what would you say are your overall thoughts of -1, and do you recommend it to fans and or non-fans of Godzilla?
Yeah, I enjoyed the movie. I liked it way better than Shin Godzilla. I think the reason why we're comparing,
get him.
Destroy him.
I think the reason why we've been comparing it to Shin Godzilla is because it's the last live-action Japanese Godzilla film. But I'm a fan of the MonsterVerse films, but even I'll say that this film blows the recent Hollywood films out of the water.
Well, yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's a film that fans will automatically enjoy it, but even non-fans will like it. There's something that I read not too long ago, an American review of this film, that it's not just a great Godzilla film, it's a great film, period. And I completely agree with that.
And I feel like that's what makes the first one even special, where that is a great movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I feel like all Godzilla films should strive to that. Be a great film first, or if not, at least an entertaining film first. Like, don't rely on fan service first.
Because again, what is your template for what is a Godzilla movie? You have to work off the first one, which is a good movie.
Right.
You know,
they didn't intend for that film to be to start a franchise. It was just a one-time thing.
Yeah, seriously.
And that's what -1 feels like too. It feels like a film that's like a one-time thing. And like I said, they could easily make sequels based off that ending alone.
I hope they don't. I'll be real. As weird as that sounds, like, I don't want a sequel to Shin Godzilla. I don't want a sequel to this. Some things for me don't need to be like pumped out to death. That's like the problem with like Marvels and shit, like Marvel movies and crap. Like, it's like everything's a backdoor pilot for more movies. Like, no, just leave it as one.
That's understandable. You good, David?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, are you? I don't know what that was so antagonistic.
That's more debatable. But Frank, what are your final thoughts on Godzilla -1, and do you recommend it?
So, as I said before, I think really it comes down to the fact that I've always wanted a period piece Godzilla film, which is funny because I even mentioned it to a friend of mine before this was even announced, that I really wanted there to be a Godzilla movie where it retells the story of the first incident, maybe a little different, with modern mind sense in mind. But I feel like that really nails it because, again, it's very much a timeless tale of coming back from war, a thing that's forever present in our modern society. It is the story of someone, owning up to guilt and realizing, what is the most important in life. And then as far as the Godzilla aspect of the movie, it very much does what, again, I love in a Godzilla film, where Godzilla is mean. He's got personality. He's got something going on. He's interesting. You don't know much about him, but you know just enough to be like, okay, this guy's a threat. He's not my friend. So when he's ultimately defeated, you're not like bummed out. You're like, okay, good. Like, that guy was destroyed. Like, that thing was a problem. That's the thing that I never understood. People had an issue with him being defeated at the end. I'm like, no, I wouldn't want that Godzilla to hang out more. That Godzilla's just a violent killing machine, which is cool, but like, that's not the Godzilla that I'm friends with, if you will, So I think it hits all those beats that I really wanted out of a straight one-off Godzilla movie, where it's one story to tell, beginning to end. It is a threat that is ever present. It can be stopped and halted, but it can never be fully controlled. It's like, I think even in the original 54 movie, even after the movie is over and the screen fades to black, just like the very, very end credits of the movie, you still hear his footprints, footsteps, echoing, meaning like he may have been down now, but the threat is still there. Even with Noriko's scars, you're like, he's still here in a way. Right. So I feel like it hits that perfect thing of horror that Godzilla actually has, where it is forever. So yeah, absolutely. Do I recommend it? Absolutely. Even if you're not a Godzilla fan, it is a good film to support, and you should support things like this, because that means we're only going to get more. Even though there's no shortage of that right now, it's still going to support anything of this kind, especially a foreign film in America. Oh, absolutely, yeah. Considering it's a live action film, not an anime, too. Oh, that is also very true, yeah. Because like, what is it? Was it the Demon Slayer movie or whatever the fuck did like gangbusters here?
Right.
But that's an animated film.
Yeah, same for like the Dragon Ball movies.
Yeah, which no knocking those at all. I love them, but I really feel like it's a matter of like give foreign cinema with actual actors, live action actors in it, a chance.
Mm-hmm.
I also like that Toho is releasing this film on a nationwide scale, and it's not like a limited Phantom Events release like they've done with.
Yeah, this one was different. This one was very much like, this is going to be, because I think as far as I saw, the screenings are going on for like a week or so here.
Yeah, just 1 week. So, Andres, if you want to see it again, you better watch it before the 7th.
Right. I definitely will. And it is certainly interesting to see how Toho has managed the international release of this movie, because this is another thing that Frank and I were talking about before recording, how this is like it's seemingly the quickest turnaround we've had for a Godzilla movie in terms of an international release, because when Shin Godzilla came out, fans had to wait like I think 3 or 4 months before that finally got.
And I got spoiled by the movie. Like people were posting the entire scenes online.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like when that movie was not like, well, yeah, people like scenes of the movie, like the climax of that film were already posted.
Oh yeah. I do recall like an earlier subtitled version that was like 20 minutes shorter that leaked online.
Oh, not even that. I remember seeing like it was like a AMV or it's like a clip section of just all that.
That came out like 2 months after the US release.
Oh, okay. Never mind then.
I remember seeing like a reel on like Facebook. It just showed the highlights of the end of the film.
Yeah. And I do hope that this movie does, or this is a sign of more Toho productions or even Japanese productions getting a similar treatment, where they're getting like they're putting the movies out there. They're not like 1 or 2 day Fathom events, and that there's a lot of press coverage to get the word out there that, hey, this movie's coming out, you should check it out, or this might be worth your time. I guess overall, as for my thoughts on the movie, I highly enjoyed the movie. I really truly did love the experience of watching it. I mentioned before, this is like the most emotionally invested I've been in a Godzilla story, and it's cast in a long time. It's the most like exciting, most thrilling experience Godzilla I've seen. It's one of those like very special experiences that made me remember why I'm a fan of this franchise and this character to begin with. I don't want to go right out and say this is like my favorite Reiwa Godzilla or my favorite Godzilla movie of all time. I feel like I want to let this sit with me and just like see how this movie will age over time. For me, I remember seeing Shin Godzilla in the theaters, and I didn't know what to think of it because it was just so unorthodox. So off the beaten path in terms of what to expect from a movie in general, let alone a Godzilla movie. But over time, I have grown to love Shin Godzilla more and more. I find more things to appreciate it with the smaller details over time, and I have come to enjoy the style that it took. While, of course, respecting why other people may feel the same way. But I'm very curious to see how my thoughts may or may not change with -1 as the years go on, and seeing how its place in history will potentially change over time. But for now, it's like, again, don't want to jump the gun and say it's my favorite, but I will say it's like definitely one of the most enjoyable Godzilla movies I have seen in a long time. Like earlier you were talking, Frank, about how this was sort of like the Godzilla movie you always wanted to see, a period piece Godzilla movie. Do you remember, David, way back in the day, before SOS, you, Bill, Dylan, and Adam used to do those like World War G videos. And back in the day, in the lead up to 2014, you guys were sort of like theorizing that 2014 may potentially be like a big blockbuster modern day remake of Godzilla 54, even though
that's what a lot of people were saying.
Everyone was saying that. So it's kind of funny that like all these years later, nearly 10 years later,
with the biggest lie ever. Don't remember the biggest lie ever, taking Godzilla back to his roots.
10 years later, we finally got that movie.
We finally got that movie. Yes.
Yeah, like this I would say, honest to God, was Godzilla coming back to his roots.
Yeah, this is about as close to its
as much
roots
as
as
I love
possible.
Or even when Anno said the truest, what was it? He called it like the truest nightmare or something like that.
Oh, that was Shinji Iguchi who said that.
Yeah, even that was a fucking lie.
Go ahead.
As much as I love Godzilla 2014, this is the movie that I wanted and expected out of 2014.
Honestly,
Like,
this is
again,
the movie I
love
wanted out of the
2014, but I
MonsterVerse in general.
Well, again, if the MonsterVerse was just advertised as like this is just going to be its own new Godzilla thing, enjoy. I'd be like, cool, I'm on board. But don't like. I think it's the fact that we were like kind of lied to with what it was gonna be. Is what I think upset a lot of people. Which I like the MonsterVerse. I won't lie, it's not perfect, but what fucking is. But I like it for what it is because Godzilla's my friend and I like seeing his movies.
Sure.
But don't you goddamn laugh at me? I'll fucking find you and kill you. Anyways, but it was the fact that they were acting like it really was going to be the second coming of 54 for American audiences, which was not the case. Godzilla was not a villain, which they made it look like to be, but it was a versus film, which is fine, which was great.
Weirdly
but
enough,
it was not.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, but it was not, as advertised.
Weirdly enough, like 2014 always came off to me as like a pseudo weird throwback to like 70s Godzilla, where two monsters show up, Godzilla's got to come in and clean up this mess.
Well, again, the MonsterVerse is just like Showa era EX, like that's really like that's what it is. Like Final Wars is to destroy all monsters, as the MonsterVerse is to the 70s versus films.
That's a fair comparison.
Because you have Mechagodzilla, you have King Ghidorah, you have Rodan, Mothra, the Big Four. Like it's Showa era homages, but it's veiled in a new modern look because they're doing nothing new really.
Right. If
you really think about it, they're just updating the technology. These are still old stories being told now. But it's the era of Godzilla after the first movie. It's not the same.
Yeah.
Like this isn't the 85, 84, the 54, or again, even the Shin Godzilla of Godzilla movies. These are versus films.
Yeah.
And New Empire is probably going to be the first new actual original story from the MonsterVerse, if anything.
I guess we'll have to wait and see then.
Oh, it is.
What's that, David?
It is, based on the leaks I read.
Okay.
Big monkey.
So, two big monkeys.
Santa of Claus, the big red ape.
Lanky Kong monkey. So, I guess one question I do want to ask you guys is, so it's I guess, we're all fans of like the original 54 movie, and this movie, -1, definitely harkens back to 54. Do you think people who started out with the MonsterVerse films may enjoy this movie?
I think they'll be definitely surprised.
Yeah, they will be. Well, again, if they know anything about Godzilla movies and what the original one is, sure. I feel like you definitely need to watch the first Godzilla movie as homework. Not to say that you can't enjoy this movie without context. I think it still stands on its own. But I feel like it would be a disservice not to watch the original film if you haven't already before watching this.
I think this movie actually I feel like this movie does not need homework. Like you would certainly get a lot more appreciation knowing what it's trying to harken back to. But I feel like this is
that's what I'm saying. Like it's not required. I just as a personal recommendation.
Yeah,
I'd say it would be a nice pairing to watch 54 and then -1.
Very fair enough. And what say you, David?
Yeah.
I think half of the American audiences that are going to go see this movie are probably haven't even seen half of the Showa era films. They're probably going into this a little bit blind, just thinking, "Oh, it's a Godzilla movie. It's going to be fun," and they're going to come out very surprised.
It's another "you misunderstood" moment.
Yeah,
but I think in a good way because
that
ending is just like is the ultimate payoff of payoffs.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So the last thing I did want to discuss before we wrap things up is I want to look at the box office performance of this movie and how this
money.
Yes, because we know money makes the world go round, and
about the money.
I'm curious to know what your guys' thoughts are on the potential future of the franchise. So I've been looking at keeping track of the numbers.
Well, I'm looking at box office.
Yeah.
I'm looking at
box office.
I'm looking at a box.
In
I'm
an
looking
office.
at Box Office Mojo right now, and so far the movie's made $4.7 million in the United States.
Yes.
That's pretty good.
So
And in Japan, it's made $23 million.
23. Yes. And compare that to Shin Godzilla. So Shin Godzilla was made on a, let's see, trying to look up its budget here. What was Shin Godzilla's budget? Should have had that up before I started recording.
Yes, you did.
Let's see. I know. I'm a
You
shitty
fucked
Godzilla
up. You
YouTuber.
fucked up. Yeah,
Okay,
get out of here. Insert name of other Godzilla YouTuber.
So 15.
You're as rusty as a nun's libido, Andres.
Oh, damn.
Anyways. So both Godzilla -1 and Shin Godzilla, weirdly enough, both have the same budget of $15 million US. Shin Godzilla,
Which is wild.
yes, oh yeah.
Compared to how they look, and then you look at like a modern, like American movie, you're like, how the fuck?
Right. I think a lot of people, even non-Godzilla fans, are starting to look at like -1 and say, why is it that this movie looks just at nearly as good, if not as good, as like a $200 million overly
Like, how come this movie look? Why did this movie look better than The Batman?
Or why did this look better than like Ant-Man 3 or the Marvels?
That's Marvel for it. Marvel doesn't know how to make movies anymore.
Yeah. But anyways,
That's all their conversation.
yeah. So anyways, Shin Godzilla made $75 million in Japan alone. Meanwhile, it's only made $23 million in Japan. -1 has made $23 million in Japan alone, and it's already being pulled from theaters due to just low attendance. Yeah. So,
well, but again, that's why again I say, because you were telling me when you were living in Japan that the only reason a lot of people went to go see it is because the Evangelion man was in it.
Yes,
was involved.
And that's the thing, like, people in Japan rarely give a shit about like the names of the creators of their favorite movies and TV shows and manga, unless it's a big mainstream hit. Like, people know Kurosawa, they know Miyazaki, they know Osamu Tezuka, they know Akira Toriyama, and Ishinomori definitely. Go Nagai, another big one. Ono. What's that?
Nothing. I don't know if that was the director I just named, Kenzei Abe.
Don't know who that is.
Hold on. Maybe I said the name wrong.
But anyways, Ono has gotten to the point where he has reached that.
Never mind. I was wrong. Never mind.
Okay. Ono has reached the point in his career where he has reached that level of popularity where when people say Ono is involved in something, that gets a lot of people talking in Japan. And I feel like that his like star power was definitely what brought a lot of attention to Shin Godzilla. And, you know, it's also possible that like it's the first Japanese Godzilla movie in over 10 years, so that might have also played a factor. But
no, really, it was, I think.
It seems to me that -1 failed to recapture that same level of success that Shin Godzilla did when you compare, again, 75 million compared to 23 million. And going by Hollywood standards here, to have a movie be a success, it needs to make twice its budget back, or at least 2.5 times its budget back. So it needed to be on a budget of $15 million, it needed to make like anywhere from like $30 to $45 million, and 23 million is not that. Now, currently, as of Saturday, December 2nd, it has made $72.8 million worldwide. So it's nearing that $30 million goal there. And more than likely, I have a good feeling that this movie may turn a profit with the international release. But
yeah, and I feel like it's not. It's no slight against the movie's quality. I think
no.
Really just has to do with distribution, which is again, it's a shame that's getting that short shaft like that.
Yeah, and you know, again, this is just like
it's getting treasure planeted.
Yeah, this is like just looking at like sort of like the landscape right now between what the movie is and what Japanese audiences want. And I've said this for years now. You know, as someone who has lived in Japan for 6 years, Japan does not give a flying fuck about Godzilla and have not given a fuck for the longest time. This is why I believe that Anno was the main reason people went to see Shin Godzilla. Not just that, but also like the whole all of my students who went to see Shin Godzilla went to see it because they heard, oh, this is a movie that's critiquing the Japanese government for its handling of the Fukushima Tohoku earthquake incidents.
And I think also that may have played a factor into why it did the way it was doing, because it was, again, because that was like, well, that wasn't like, it was only like a handful of years out too. Right.
It's like 2011. It's like literally 5 years ago. It was still fresh in the minds of everyone at the time.
So I feel like it also had the advantage. I shouldn't say advantage, but it's like with 54, where it's like, what is it?
9 years.
Happened.
9 years prior. Yeah. So it was still fresh in the minds of people.
It was very fresh. So it was like, this is relatable. I understand it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, you have a movie like -1. This is just my own personal theory, on top of the whole not caring about Godzilla in general, but this is a movie that's very heavily reliant on World War II history, World War II knowledge, World War II politics, just the post-war Japan culture. And I feel like it's possible that this generation of Japanese audiences are very disconnected from that period of time. It's not like they it's not like they don't care about it or whatever. It's just a sort of like ambivalence to it, where it's like, that happened long ago. That has nothing to do with me in the here and now. That's not relevant to me living in present day Japan. So it's very possible that it's just a combination of just like the subject matter just did not have that same resonance with audiences that Shin Godzilla did, on top of the fact that you have a director like Yamazaki who is nowhere near the amount of popularity as Anno, but also the general lack of care towards the Godzilla property in general in Japan. People can say what they want about Godzilla Fest, about the hotel, about the Godzilla store. I feel like those are only meant for like the super fans, which is a very, very small minority in Japan.
Yeah.
Like, this is not like a Dragon Ball or even like a Demon Slayer of that kind. Nowhere near the level of like Evangelion has with its cross-generational appeal.
And Evangelion, that brings out the weirdos like that actually are like way invested.
But here's the thing, Evangelion is so popular, most of its fans are normal people.
Nope.
Whoa, wait, Anders, what do you mean normal people?
It's not.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah. But anyways, like, yeah, like the more niche the franchise is, the more weirdos you're going to come across. Whereas the more mainstream it is, the more normal people, the more the weirdos are better able to hide. No, but
we can hide in plain sight.
Anyways,
go ahead. That's ironic though, because it seems like Godzilla is way more popular in the U.S.
For sure. Yeah. That's why it was like they saw how well it did in America that they're like, oh, we have to hop to it.
Right. So what was I going to say? So yeah, more than likely, -1 is going to make a profit, just nowhere near the amount of success that Shin Godzilla did. But the fact that it needs to rely on international box office to make that profit back, I find kind of worrying, because Toho had stated in the past, like very recently, I feel like at some point this year, they said the MonsterVerse is for the international audience, -1 is for the Japanese audience. And if the Japanese audience did not care for -1, what does this mean for the future of Japanese Godzilla projects? And that's the last question I want to ask you guys.
Oh yeah, I'll let David, since you were so quiet and patient, I will let you go first.
Andres, is there a possibility that that quote was mistranslated because
anime was a mistake?
Because I use Google Translate and this thing called U-Language, and sometimes even those two are unreliable. So is it possible that they meant that the story behind -1 is more Japanese oriented, that would be more relatable to Japanese audiences than
I've heard that sentiment more than the movie not being a success here, therefore no Godzilla movies ever again.
Well, that's just my own my theory here. It's like, I'm thinking...
Well, your theory's fucking garbage.
Because I don't know if Toho is willing to commit to making Godzilla movies for the international audience.
Toho's very, very fond of not doing things that make money.
Right. Like, you'd think they would have made a Shin Godzilla 2, like...
You think they'd make their toys better, like, sorry.
You think Toho would have made, like, a Shin Godzilla 2, like... The moment Shin Godzilla was made to be like a resounding success,
I feel like
Anno had a story ready for Shin Godzilla 2, Godzilla's counterattack.
Which I'm so glad he fucking didn't.
Well, here's the thing. He did say that this movie was going to be just like a throwback to the, what do you call it? Like, what is it called? Like the Toho Godzilla Champion Festivals. Yeah. Where it's like, none of the politics bullshit. We're just going to have like lots of fun monster shit.
Well, you shouldn't have buried the lead there, Chief.
But
I'm so mean to him.
Oh, because he's had it good for too long. That's why.
He's had it too good for too long, and fucking call your dad or something. I don't know. Go to therapy, you fucking bitch.
He's like, animation is my therapy.
Fucking you and fucking Miyazaki need to go fucking touch grass for shit's sake.
Just hug each other. Hug your children, for God's sakes.
Yeah, stop being mean to them, Miyazaki. Anyways, watch The Boy and the Heron if you're fucking a loser like that.
Funny
sorry, I'm sorry. Cancel me. I don't know.
What was I going to say? I lost my train of thought completely. But I was going to say, I don't...
You're welcome.
It's very possible that Toho can... Like, if -1 is enough of a success... I guess it's possible for Toho to say, oh, we'll just make these movies for the international market now. But
yeah.
I don't see them doing that, only because the MonsterVerse is for the international market. And I don't know if Toho and Legendary would be cool with them releasing movies that compete with each other for the same audience.
Yeah, they can, because it's in their contract. The intentions is really would be the issue, but the intentions don't have any legal precedence. As long as Toho releases their film in the year that Legendary's not releasing their film, then it's okay. That's why we're getting the 70th anniversary film this year instead of next year, because we got Godzilla X Kong next year.
Right.
Yeah, and this was the 69th, baby.
Nice.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's like, I don't know if it just comes off as kind of weird to me, just like making a Japanese movie, Japanese production, Japanese actors for an audience that's not the primary audience that's not Japanese. Like,
it would have been weird like before 2010, but because of things like animes, getting these big theatrical releases, I think Godzilla.
Yeah, I suppose so. Like Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods was produced solely because Dragon Ball Z was still like a hot commodity internationally. So the Japanese government
each movie subsequently makes more money each single time. Like Broly did gangbusters, and fucking superheroes did even more than that.
Right. I guess So I guess there is a precedence for that, for Japanese productions to be made for more than just the Japanese audience in mind. I just don't know if Toho's going to be willing to do that, because like Frank said, Toho has made some very oddball decisions with their handling of Godzilla.
They hate money.
From what I've been told, is that Toho's been under new management since I believe 2019. That was around the time. That's
starting to be better about it.
Yeah, that's why I don't know if you've noticed, but there's been more attention to the international market. That's why we have the international Godzilla store. That's why they're
well, because they realized that, again, we want to buy shit from them, and we were so like the fact that even a Godzilla parody was like, no, we did this out of love. We want to show you that we love this. And then they're like, Toho's like, no, you've been sued for $1 billion. No one can have Godzilla but us.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's the international store. There's been the 3 Fathom event screenings for the 3 Millennium Godzilla films, and
people love them.
And the Criterion and Janus, apparently they just got the rights to the Millennium and the Heisei Godzilla films. They're just waiting on Godzilla 2000 to expire in 2025.
Oh, so we're gonna get like an even nicer version of that. Like, I'm really just waiting for Sony to not have the rights to the Heisei movies so we can get nice.
They don't. they lost the rights this year and last year. So
oh, sick. So we might actually get like a Criterion Heisei collection or something. Thank
I don't know what they're gonna
Christ.
do. I don't know what they're gonna do. They have the rights to those Ashura Honda non-Godzilla Toho films too, like the Mysterians, Iran.
Those ones need, because I have that. What is it? I have the expensive
Media Blasters.
Yeah, I have the Media Blaster set, which I guess commands like $1 million. It's like insane.
Yeah. So yeah, Toho is paying way more attention to the international market. So let's say if this film doesn't do as much money in Japan, but does more internationally, then I think I could see Toho still making domestic productions, but putting a little bit of appeal for international markets. Kind of in a similar way how anime is still doing its own thing, but they're not really how do I say this? They're not doing what Toho did in the 60s by, hiring white washed out American actors to be in their films or anything like that. I feel like they're just going to do their own thing.
Hey, washed out.
How dare you talk about Nick Adams that way?
No, he was. Well, they were all prolific actors and still were before and after those movies. The only one who got the short shaft, I think, is the guy who was in Varan the Unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
Everyone forgets that there was an American version of that movie that I don't think it's been released at all. Anywhere.
No, it's just on VHS, and if you want a DVD, it's got to be a bootleg.
Yep.
Yeah,
I speak from experience.
Oh yeah, you were the bootleg master here.
I still am.
You are. I've been following your channel forever. Not to gush right now about who you is, because you're the dude.
I got all these copies of different releases of the same movie.
Yeah, you and H-Man are really doing the game. Anyways,
so I guess so overall, it seems like you guys think that there is a chance for Toho to still produce Japanese Godzilla movies in the future. I guess for me, it's like I honestly really don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised really if this turns out to be the last Godzilla movie, or if they try to make at least one more and before calling it quits on the whole Reiwa series and take another 10-year break and let MonsterVerse do its thing. I don't know. I mean, I'd love to see them do more stuff because it seems like they're willing to take more risks with the franchise. They're willing to let creators do their own spin on Godzilla as wildly, inconsistent as they've been. Loved Singular Point, loved Shin Godzilla. I loved -1. The anime trilogy I hate, but I can definitely respect what they were at least trying to do there. But it would certainly suck if this turns out to be the last movie, or maybe one of the last movies that Toho might do. I certainly don't want them to stop, but I don't know. I just don't see them being willing to continue with domestic productions if they continue to do what -1 is doing sales-wise, a profit-wise right now.
Well, again, it's a shame because it's not, and that's the thing that sucks about a lot of stuff. Again, it's not the mark of a bad or good movie.
No.
If it's well, I mean, in the eyes of the company, to them, that's a failure.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, what's like how what's the word? Shit, I lost train of thought. 98 did gangbusters, but then critically horrible.
Right.
So a day of a sequel for that went out the window because of its critical reception.
I think
Godzilla, great critical reception, great box office reception, no sequel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or no further production, but then still there's still an interest in Japanese-made Godzilla movies, hence we have -1.
It kind of reminds me of that weird moment in the 80s where 84, as far as I know, was a success, but there wasn't
it did well, but there was nothing to latch on past that.
Yeah, and then it took them 5 years to make Biollante, which did not make the same amount of success that 84 did, but then that got a sequel 2-3 years later.
Yeah, well, I think I'm not sure if you know this, but it had its successful run on premium cable television on HBO.
Okay, yeah. So I guess
that's why we never got. That's why we weren't able to properly get that movie for a while.
Right. Yeah. It is super weird how Toho handle things. It's like they seemingly just change their game plan at the drop of a hat. So who knows what's going to happen with with the franchise post -1. But
yeah, it's too early to say because it's only been a month since it's been released in Japan, and it's just
but
been
keep in mind
nationwide.
it's wrapping up it's wrapping up its theatrical run in Japan as we speak.
Yeah, really? So they don't do the 3-month window like the US does?
Oh no, like due to the poor performance of -1, it's like I mentioned this earlier. They're already pulling the movie from theaters over there,
which is so nuts. That's such a fucking bummer.
But again, that's just the current Japanese market. You can't force people to give a shit about Godzilla over there.
Is insane town.
Yeah. But hey, you know what? At least we got -1. If this is the end of Reiwa Godzilla, at least we got -1 out of it.
I mean, I'm super glad for that. The fact that we got it at all.
Yeah. All right then. So we've been at this for 2 hours and 15 minutes. I guess it's time to wrap things up. So where can people find you, Frank?
Oh my god, save me for last, because remember I have like 5 plugs. I have like 5 different places I do work for, so save me for last.
True. All right. David, where can people find you?
Oh, I'm everywhere, son. I'm in your pipes. I'm in your bathroom. I'm in your ass.
So that's where you've been, and that explains all your shit content.
Oh,
I'm that itchy part right there.
Ew, ew.
No, but they know where to find me, Andres.
I don't. Tell me.
Do they though?
Am I subscribed to you? I should check.
Are you not?
Here's the thing, I should be. If I'm not, I'm so sorry, because I think I've watched your content forever.
Keep in mind, you've had like 1 million channels in the past.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I might be subscribed to one of your old ones. I'm not gonna lie.
Right.
Okay, so what are the channel? What are the current channels that you manage right now?
Hold on. Let me pull up my Switch account tab. So I have Gorizard, my main one, where I do my reviews and those comparison videos. I have Gorizard TV, where I mostly uploaded the Ultraman dubs and just left it alone. And I have Gorizard TV number 2.
Ones, right?
Huh?
The 4 kids ones?
Yeah. I'm leaving that alone for now.
Good, smart.
And yeah, just 3 accounts so far. That's all I managed.
Wait, you only talked about Gorizard TV, and what's the last one?
Gorizard TV number 2.
Gorizard TV number 2. Okay.
I just subscribed to. I thought I was. I'm so sorry. That's an IRL thing. In person, I just did that because I thought I was subscribed to. Fuck.
Hold on. Whatever happened to Ultra Rider Gorizard?
That is the main one. That is Gorizard.
Oh, okay, you renamed it. All right, cool. And now,
oh man, maybe that's what I thought.
Where can people find you, Frankie boy?
No, I still have more plugs than you.
And they are?
Buy my books. No,
that's my line.
Buy my book. Okay, so if you like cosplay content and all that stuff, and watching a person have a mental breakdown on a weekly basis, you can find me over at my cosplay channel, which is 8armedspidey. That's the number 8, ARMEDSPIDEY. I also run the social media for 2 really fun podcasts. One is called This Is Rad, hosted by one comedian, Kyle Clark, and tech enthusiast Matthew Burnside. That is over at This Is Rad on Instagram and This Is Rad on Twitter. You can also check us out over at Everything Is Scary, where comedian Kyle Clark once again and a horror enthusiast Amy Drolet talk about scary movies that are too scary for me, and that is called Everything Is Scary. That is Everything Is Scary on Instagram and at Pod Scary on Twitter. Also, I run a sideshow on that very same channel on Instagram every Friday called The Graveyard Shift, where me and Amy talk about 2 horror movies that we find fun based around a theme. I think that's it for now.
And that's all on Instagram, everything that you mentioned.
That was all on Instagram. And like I said, we also have Twitter. This is Rad on Twitter and Pod Scary on Twitter.
Sweet, cool. And I'll be sure to put
Don't talk to me, an idiot.
I'll be sure to get all your links and put them in the description below. And of course, everyone probably knows where you can find me. You can find me on Instagram at KaijuNoir, Twitter at PW_DracoAzul, and at Facebook at Primal Warrior DracoAzul. You can find all of my books and comics on Amazon, Kindle, Comixology, And you can follow me here on YouTube for future videos, as sporadic as they are. But you can follow me on my other social media links for all the latest updates on my
add us on Discord. We watch things all the time.
That's true. You can follow me on Discord at KaijuNoir, or follow you at
Hysterical Eek on Discord. You have to pay me money though.
Yes.
That's not required, but I would like it.
All right then. And just for old time's sake, David, for all the fans out there, where do I live?
Oh no, what the fuck?
You live with Sean Barry now, right? So LA?
No, damn it! You had this correct last year, David.
Wait. You live in the same place as Ford Brody, San Francisco.
No! You said that 10 years ago.
Is this a bit, or are you just...
Oh, no, this is a 10-year-old bit, my friend. Where the fuck do I live, David?
Andres, California is such a big place. You guys have like 90-minute traffic.
You got this right. You had this right before, David. Don't tell me you lost all of your character development over these last 8-10 years worth of story arcs.
War never changes, my friend.
Well, how am I responsible if my character arc is written by Hideki Anno?
Oh, damn. You mean
oh my god.
You mean rinse and repeat it to the same time, just put a wig on different people? Ooh, bam, bam, boom, boom, bam.
Well, in that case, I suggest some therapy and perhaps touching grass and hugging your father, David.
Yeah, call your dad.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. I have been Andres Perez, a.k.a. KaijuNoir. Yes, buy my books and comics.
8-armed spider. Only buy the third one. I am Frank, 8-armed spidey. Bye.
I am Gorizard.
What was that? Was that a gunshot? I'm sorry.
No.
Was that your attempt? Was that your attempt to be like Bill?
Yeah, I thought you were gonna open the review that way with that. Hello, everyone.
Oh, I really should have.
What, with like a nostalgic head wiggle?
Oh, I honestly, I don't know if Bill ever did that, but we'll explain all this backstory and lore to you after the fact. Anyways, guys, thank you very much for joining us, everybody. We'll see you later. Take care, and have a good day.